Chapter 22:16. Taking the initiative to Lin Feng. This was the home of the people from the Earth Realm. Now that their home had been destroyed, Yi Fei, Di Fan, and the rest were all enraged. Fortunately, only Lin Feng was destroyed, and the connection to the Grotto Heaven world was still there. Yi Fei immediately activated the connection and quickly entered the Grotto Heaven world with everyone else. The Grotto Heaven world was already packed with people. During this time, even more martial artists from the Earth Realm had been brought up by the Heavenly Tao Tree, but no one dared to step out of the Grotto Heaven world. Seeing Yi Fei appear, Xia Jun and Luo, she quickly went up to him. "Big brother, you're finally back." "Tao Lord Meng, she is severely injured." "What? Meng, she's injured? What's going on? Why was Lin Feng destroyed?" Yi Fei was shocked. He knew about Meng Shi's abilities, especially since he had the ability to split himself. It was extremely difficult to capture and kill him. Now that even Meng Shi was severely injured, the severity of the problem was obvious. It was Tao Lord Qin Yun and Tao Lord Sky River. From afar, Fu Renja walked over with demonic aura. Ever since he came to the Heaven Realm, he did not care about worldly affairs and focused on seclusion. After all, Fu Renja was not born with a demonic body. Instead, he was created by the demonic humans. This also caused Fu Renjia to be unable to awaken the corresponding demonic blood. Not long ago, Lin Feng was attacked by the Qingyun Alliance and the Sky River royal family. Fu Renjia, who was greatly affected, finally awakened his demonic blood and broke through to the sovereign realm. It was also because of Fu Renjia's unexpected breakthrough that those who remained in Lin Feng could return to the Grotto Heaven world unscathed. Fatty Pang Bei and Yi Fei's only female disciple, Yi Shaochan, had also broken through to the sovereign realm. Together with Yi Fei and the rest who had returned, Lin Feng was now considered a powerful force. However, compared to Meng Shi's injuries, Fu Renjia's breakthrough could not make up for Lin Feng's heavy losses. After a conversation, Yi Fei also learned the reason for Lin Feng's destruction. It turned out that not long after they left, they found out about the rise of Yi Fei in the Baiyun Nation and that even the Qingyun Li could not suppress him. The Sky River royal family had finally decided to attack Yi Fei. Moreover, the one who came this time was not the ordinary Lord of Heaven, but the Sky River Tao Lord, who was rumored to have died a long time ago. Of course, strictly speaking, Sky River Tao Lord was indeed dead. This Tao Lord had actually refined his body into a half-human, half-corpse state. This made Sky River King very crazy. He knew that Lin Feng had the mysterious race of the Grotto Heaven behind him, so the crazy and ruthless Sky River King sent another 10,000-strong army of corpse soldiers to attack Lin Feng. He wanted to test Lin Feng's strength. It just so happened that Yi Fei and the others had all gone to the Supreme Emperor Heaven of the Divine Prefecture. Due to the extreme shortage of manpower, the Heavenly Path Tree had no choice but to open its Grotto Heaven again and send out the battle trance to prevent Lin Shun and Lin Gui's corpses from being refined by the imperial family of the Heavenly River. It enveloped the entire mountain peak. This was also the reason why Yi Fei saw that Lin Chen's and Lin Gui's tombstones were no longer there when he returned. They had been moved into the Grotto Heaven. However, Lin Shun and Lin Gui's tombstones were saved, but the Heavenly Path Tree had no choice but to expose the fact that the battle trance were unable to leave the Grotto Heaven. Old Man Qin Yun and Sky River King, who realized that they had been fooled, were instantly enraged. They immediately led the Qingyun League's many rulers and Lord of Heaven to launch their most ferocious attack on Lin Feng. Although they did not dare to step into the spatial black fog and fight the battle trance personally, the two furious Tao Lords worked together to severely injure Soaring Serpent and completely destroy Lin Feng. Brother, that's the situation. Tao Lord Soaring Serpent isn't the only one injured. Even Lord of Heavengua almost died trying to protect us. Senior Heavenly Path Tree is doing its best to heal them, Yi Shanshan said worriedly in the end. After hearing this, Yi Fei was even more enraged. However, when he thought of the injured Soaring Serpent and Lord of Heavengua, he suppressed his anger. He gently rubbed Yi Shanshan's head and said, "It's fine as long as you're all fine. I'll go see Senior Heavenly Path Tree now." Yi Fei quickly entered the Spirit Immortal Clan's palace. Inside the palace, the Heavenly Path Tree's incarnation was mobilizing the dark force within the Grotto Heaven to help Soaring Serpent and Lord of Heaven Guo recover. Both of them were in bad shape. Soaring Serpent had lost half of his tail. There were bloody holes all over Lord of Heaven Guo's body, as well as a deep claw mark. They're in bad shape. Not only were the two juniors from Qingyun and Sky River vicious, they even set up a formation around Lin Feng to isolate the dark force of heaven and earth after destroying Lin Feng. For now, I can only ensure that they don't die, but I can't wake them up, the Heavenly Path Tree said gravely when he saw Yi Fei enter. Yi Fei's heart sank. Even though Soaring Serpent and Lord of Heaven Guo had been forced to submit, they had still made great contributions to Lin Feng. At this thought, Yi Fei's expression turned resolute. If I break the formation set up by the Qingyun Alliance, will I be able to help Soaring Serpent and Lord of Heaven Guo recover? You can, but you have to consider this carefully. Even though Qingyun and Sky River are afraid of my Divine Lord Aura and don't dare to attack you, they can order their subordinates, the Lord of Heaven, to join forces and kill you, the Heavenly Path Tree said in a low voice. He didn't want Yi Fei to take the risk. However, Yi Fei laughed when he heard this. My subordinates are on the verge of dying in order to protect my friends and family. How can I ignore their lives and disappoint them? Soaring Serpent, Lord of Heaven Guo, please wait for a moment. I'll be right back. Yi Fei didn't hesitate. He turned and strode out of the Grotto Heaven. Soaring Serpent and Lord of Heaven Guo clearly sensed his words. When they found out that Yi Fei was going to risk his life and leave the Grotto Heaven world to save them, Inchi couldn't help but feel a faint warmth in her heart. Outside the forest peak, the mountain peaks towered like rows of soldiers. They surrounded the entire forest peak and the Grotto Heaven. At the same time, they formed a vast isolation formation that completely cut off the Grotto Heaven world from absorbing heaven and earth mystic chi from the outside world. Without the heaven and earth mystic chi, the entire Grotto Heaven was actually a dead place. The people inside needed heaven and earth mystic chi to live and cultivate. Soaring Serpent and Lord of Heaven Guo needed even more heaven and earth mystic chi to recover from their injuries. Of course, if they didn't break the isolation formation outside, it would be empty talk. At this moment, on the main peak of the isolation formation, Gao Sickle stood complacently on the mountain peak. He looked down at Yi Fei, who had just walked out of the Grotto Heaven, with a lofty attitude. Demon Yi, after hiding for so long, you're finally willing to come out? Gao Sickle is here. Why don't you hurry up and fight? Gao Sickle's words were harsh. He was deliberately infuriating Yi Fei. As long as Yi Fei couldn't take the provocation and left the Grotto Heaven world's range, it would be Yi Fei's time of death. Yi Fei, you didn't expect us to meet again, did you? I said long ago that your body will definitely belong to me. Chapter 22:17. Sweeping away the Lord of Heaven. Needless to say, only Bai Long, who possessed the body of a ghost infant, could say such perverted words. As a ghost infant, Bai Long had a very special hobby, which was to collect other people's corpses and use them as his own. This also caused Bai Long to look at Yi Fei's body with a gaze filled with endless desire and fanaticism. That gaze immediately caused Yi Fei to have goosebumps all over his body. I've been practicing martial arts since I was 10 years old. I've seen cruel people, I've seen cunning people, I've seen noble people, and I've also seen despicable people. But I've never seen perverted and shameless people like you two. Yi Fei walked step by step toward Bai Long and Gao Sickle. These words also touched Bai Long and Gao Sickle's bottom line at the same time. Both of them were instantly enraged. Bai Long let out a mournful ghost howl. In an instant, the ground shook and soil flew up. Countless coffins broke out of the ground. Inside the coffins were callous corpse soldiers. They howled and surrounded Yi Fei from all directions, completely cutting off Yi Fei's path back to Lin Feng. Attack! Moye's path of retreat has been cut off. Now is the time to capture and kill this demon and eliminate future trouble for our Bayou nation. Gao Sickle was in high spirits, like a prince giving orders. He enjoyed the feeling of being bossed around. Bai Lung also let out a strange cackle. He waved his large hand, and the surrounding corpse soldiers let out a soundless roar. They opened their mouths at the same time and spat out a poisonous corpse poison chi. It caused the world outside Lin Feng to become gloomy and gloomy. The instant the gloomy wind formed, a few figures among the corpse soldiers suddenly moved out like lightning. These figures were not corpse soldiers, but Lord of Heaven realm martialists disguised as corpse soldiers. They had been lying in ambush here for a long time, specifically waiting for Yi Fei to lose his patience and walk out. Then, they would suddenly attack and kill Yi Fei. And as long as Yi Fei died, the entire Lin Feng would basically collapse. I have to say that the person who set up this trap is really meticulous. Unfortunately, you can't kill me with just this little trick. Get lost. Even if he was facing a sneak attack from the Lord of Heaven, Yi Fei was not afraid. After all, he was now the Lord of Heaven. More importantly, he had mastered a stronger battle sorcery. Boom! Yi Fei's body moved. His body emitted purple gold divine light as he instantly transformed into a terrifying war demon. Each of his punches and kicks contained the destructive power of gods and demons. Bang! Yi Fei's fist collided with a Lord of Heaven of the Imperial Sky River clan. The Lord of Heaven was also a half-corpse. His corpse claws were as tough as divine weapons and covered in corpse poison that even Dao Lords feared. This Lord of Heaven was very confident that as long as he could land a hit on Yi Fei's body, he could activate the corpse poison and poison Yi Fei to death instantly, even if it was just a tiny scratch on his skin. Unfortunately, the corpse claw was incapable of piercing through Yi Fei's devil-like body. Instead, Yi Fei's 1,000,000 god power fist slammed into the corpse claw, causing intense pain to shoot through the man's arm. The corpse claw, along with the rest of his arm, had been shattered by the force of Yi Fei's fist strike. The Lord of Heaven shrieked miserably in the wind. He hurriedly retreated, not daring to clash with Yi Fei. At the same time, two Lords of Heaven charged out from behind him. One of them was the Lord of Heaven of Medicine King Manor, while the other was the Lord of Heaven Gao Shun, whom Yi Fei had met once before. At this moment, these two Lords of Heaven joined forces to attack Yi Fei. Scram! Yi Fei strode forward like a war demon walking in the sky. His left hand punched out with the war demon fist, while his right hand brandished the dark steel heavy sword. He was fighting two Lords of Heaven by himself. This is impossible. When did he surpass the Lord of Heaven? The Lord of Heaven's expression changed drastically. He still remembered the first time he saw Yi Fei. At that time, Yi Fei was just a pitiful heavenly venerate. Even the Bloodwolf Peak could force Yi Fei into a corner. Now, in less than 2 years, Yi Fei had broken through to the Lord of Heaven and the Lord of Heaven. His progress was so fast that even Gao Shun, the Lord of Heaven, was shocked. It was also this shock that caused Gao Tianjuan's mind to be thrown into chaos. A considerable flaw appeared in his supernatural powers. Yi Fei instantly grasped this flaw. His divine fist was like a mountain, shattering the void and shattering the heavens and earth. With a loud bang, he punched forwards. Purple gold flames of the laws lit up the entire world. Then, the Lord of Heaven's miserable shriek rang out in everyone's ears. In the face of Yi Fei's simple punch, even someone as strong as the Lord of Heaven couldn't withstand it. He was instantly knocked out of the sky. This wasn't because Gao Shun was too weak, but because Yi Fei was too strong. Ever since Yi Fei had obtained the Lord of Heaven's Tao of Despair, his divine power had become even more terrifying. At this time, even though he hadn't cultivated the Lord of Heaven's mystique, his physical strength was a very powerful Lord of Heaven's mystique. It was also for this reason that Gao Shun, who was just an ordinary Lord of Heaven, could only be completely crushed by Yi Fei. However, Yi Fei didn't attack again. Instead, he said coldly, On account of the fact that you sold me the sovereign god pill, I will spare your life today. Now, scram. Dong! Yifei took a step forward in the sky. His step shattered the space. The powerful battle demon, Law, burned fiercely on his body like a meteor shower. Finally, the rain of fire gathered on the dark steel heavy sword, instantly activating the 4 divine inscriptions on it. At the same time, Yifei suddenly unleashed a Dao Lord-level attack. A terrifying sword light as fast as lightning pierced forward. The Lord of Heaven of Medicine King Manor, who had planned to attack Yifei together with Gao Shun, was already holding his throat tightly with both hands. There was a bloody hole in his throat. The boundless sword light followed this bloody hole and broke through his sky palace, shattering his divine soul. Bam! The corpse of a Lord of Heaven fell from the sky palace. At this point, of the 3 Lord of Heaven who had attacked Yifei, 2 were injured and 1 was dead. No one could stop Yifei. Holding the Darksteel heavy sword, Yifei continued forward, rushing towards the mountain where Gao Shun and Bai Lung were. As the saying went, to catch bandits, catch the leader. Fighting with the Lord of Heaven was just a waste of time. His ultimate goal was to kill Bai Lung and Gao Shun, especially Gao Shun. This person was one of the main culprits who had killed Lin Shun and Lin Gui. Now that the Iron Hand Lord of Heaven had been beheaded, it was Gao Shun's turn. Roar! Provoked by Yifei, Bai Lung suddenly roared like a ghost king. Countless corpse soldiers started to go crazy when they heard his voice. The nearby mountain peaks were shocked by Yifei's terrifying battle strength. More Lord of Heaven experts were rushing over. But Yifei did not care. His footsteps became heavier and faster. In the end, he turned into a purple gold star and rushed from the sky to the mountain peak where Gao Shun and Bai Lung were standing. Bai Lung and Gao Shun roared in fear at the same time. They retreated frantically and counterattacked frantically. All kinds of mystiques rained down on Yifei. Yifei sneered. My golden body of laws can even block the attacks of Dao Lords. How can it be destroyed by the likes of you? Bai Lung, Gao Shun, I'm here now. Which one you get over here and die? Boom. Chapter 22:18. Sky River Dao Lord. This scene deeply shocked the Lord of Heaven who had rushed over. Yifei had not only broken through the Lord of Heaven, but he had also captured Gao Sickle and Bai Lung in an instant. How were they going to deal with Yifei now? The corpse soldiers nearby had gone completely berserk. They did not care who Yifei had captured. They had received orders to kill Yifei. An endless stream of corpse soldiers surged towards Yifei like a tidal wave. Soon, the entire mountain peak was surrounded by a sea of corpses. In the sky above the corpses was Gao Shun, who had an ugly expression on his face. He led even more heaven monarchs to surround Yifei. Yifei, if you let Gao Shun go, you can still live. If you don't, you will die. Let him go. When he forced Lin Gui and Lin Chun to their deaths, did he ever think of letting them go? Now, retreat immediately. Otherwise, I will kill them. As the saying goes, capture the ringleader to capture the bandits. No matter how many corpse soldiers Yifei killed, he would not be able to hurt the Qingyun alliance. However, if he captured the important figures of the other party, he could force the other party to do something desperate. This was the current situation. Following the capture of Gao Sickle and Bai Lung, not only were the Lord of Heaven and the Qingyun alliance alarmed, but even the Lord of Heaven in the Qingyun alliance. In the distant sky, 3 figures rushed over rapidly. These 3 figures were the King of Medicine, Old Man Qingyun, and a man who exuded a strong corpse aura. With the appearance of that man, the roaring corpse soldiers suddenly quieted down, as if they had seen the king of the corpses. Yifei could guess the identity of this man. Sky River Dao Lord. Yifei enunciated each word clearly. He had not forgotten the scene of the Divine Star Academy being destroyed and the scene of Run Tinching exploding. All of this was actually caused by Sky River Dao Lord. If it weren't for the heavenly corpse ghost generals he had left behind, the Divine Star Academy wouldn't have been destroyed. Even if it had been destroyed, it wouldn't have been so thoroughly destroyed. Seeing Sky River Monarch, Yi Fei's body emitted a murderous aura. And when he saw Yi Fei choking Bai Long, Sky River Monarch's face that was as stiff as a corpse flashed with rage. Release Bai Long, and I will leave your corpse intact. Otherwise, I will turn you into a ghost and make you my corpse slave for all eternity. And Gao Sickle, you must release him as well. Otherwise, even if the people of Wind and Cloud Palace don't kill you, I will personally kill you. Old man Xingyan was also furious. Although Gao Sickle was a good-for-nothing, he was still his grandson. At this moment, Yi Fei was holding him by the neck in midair. Old man Xingyan could no longer bear it. Boom! As he spoke, the might of a Dao Lord pressed down heavily on Yi Fei like an invisible mountain. He wanted to restrict Yi Fei's movements and cultivation. Oof. Sky River Monarch also snorted coldly. A fingernail in his hand suddenly popped out and turned into the sharpest weapon, swiping towards Yi Fei's throat. Obviously, after discovering that the mysterious tribe behind Yi Fei couldn't leave the heavenly abode, Old Man Xingyan and Sky River Monarch no longer had any scruples. Yi Fei's actions of grabbing Gao Sickle and Bai Lung had thoroughly angered these two Dao Lords. Moreover, the mountain peaks that sealed off the forest peak were arranged very cleverly. It was a place that sealed off the entire forest peak and wouldn't be invaded by the black fog of the heavenly abode. This way, once Yi Fei appeared and was surrounded by these mountain peaks, no matter how powerful the mysterious tribe behind Yi Fei was, they wouldn't be able to do anything to them. Here, Old Man Xingyun and Sky River Monarch had deliberately set up a trap. Gao Sickle and Bai Lung were the bait that they released to lure Yi Fei out. The only thing that these two Dao Lords hadn't expected was that Yi Fei would break through to the Lord of Heaven realm in such a short period of time and defeat the other Lords of Heaven. Before they could react, he suddenly grabbed Gao Sickle and Bai Lung. Seeing the two Dao Lords attack, Yi Fei's expression didn't change. He suddenly lifted Gao Sickle and Bai Lung, who were strangling him, up like dead dogs, and used them as a shield in front of him. Gao Sickle screamed like a pig being slaughtered. His body was pierced by Sky River Monarch's corpse poison fingernail. The fierce corpse poison instantly tortured Gao Sickle's face, and he showed signs of turning from a living person into a zombie. Ancestor, save me. Bai Lung also screamed in fear. Yi Fei didn't use him to block the corpse poison fingernail. Instead, he used him as a shield and directly handed him to Old Man Xingyun's huge green cloud palm that was sweeping toward him. If this slap landed, even if Bai Lung was a very talented ruler, he would still be killed by this slap. Sky River Monarch's cold expression was immediately shocked. He roared angrily, and suddenly, another fingernail transformed into a blade as large as a millstone. With a boom, it continuously shattered the green cloud palm. Old Man Xingyun was furious. Sky River, this is the time to kill Yi Fei. Why did you destroy my mystique? Sky River Monarch said angrily, Yi Fei deserves to die, but how can my son be buried with such a lowly commoner? Bai Lung has the body of a ghost infant and is the hope of my Sky River Kingdom. Anyone can die here, but only Bai Lung must not die. All right then, let's not kill him first. Let's join forces and capture him. Old Man Xingyun suppressed his anger. He could be ruthless and disregard Gao Sickle's life, but he didn't dare to make things too difficult for Sky River Monarch. Suddenly, Old Man Xingyun's palm turned into a claw. A formless Dao Lord's dark force formed a whirlpool that rapidly spun toward Yi Fei. This was Old Man Xingyun's other mystique, the green cloud whirlpool. It was very domineering and strange. It could also change directions at will, making it impossible to guard against. At this moment, Yi Fei clearly couldn't hold on any longer if he used Gao Sickle or Bai Lung as a shield. Yi Fei's face flashed with anger. He suddenly took 2 steps forward. Following his steps, 2 strong sword lights actually followed his legs and suddenly rushed into the sky. With 2 cracking sounds, they continuously sliced apart Bai Lung's and Gao Sickle's legs. Even more shrill screams came from their mouths. Old Man Xingyun and Sky River Monarch, who were attacking, changed their expressions again. Yi Fei, if you dare hurt them again, we two Tao lords will make you suffer a fate worse than death. Then let's try and see who will suffer a fate worse than death. Yi Fei's expression was cold as he stepped forward again. He had already used his foot to send out a sword. Dazzling sword lights rushed into the sky, further slicing apart Bai Long's ghost infant body and Gao Sickle's possessed body. Save me. Grandfather, save me. This Yi Fei is a lunatic. Old ancestor, I don't want to die. My ghost infant body is about to be destroyed by his sword lights. Gao Sickle and Bai Long were scared half to death. They were afraid that Yi Fei would kill them if they provoked him too much. They could only hurriedly ask for help again. Why did Sky River Monarch protect Bai Long's ghost infant body? He could only send out a poisonous nail once again, completely shattering Old Man Qingyun's mystique. Speak. What conditions do you want before you are willing to let Bai Long go? Sky River Monarch glared at Yi Fei with a furious and cold gaze. Yi Fei didn't speak. He just took another step forward. Two more dazzling sword lights, together with the previous two, continuously bombarded Bai Long and Gao Sickle's sky palaces in an attempt to penetrate their souls. Chapter 22:19. Gao Sickle's death. Hearing this, Sky River Lord's face turned livid. But Bai Long was too important to the Sky River royal family. Even someone as cold as Sky River Lord dared not let anything happen to Bai Long. He waved his hand coldly, and the corpses around the mountain retreated like a well-trained army. And Sky River Lord was the commander of this army. Old Man Qingyun's face turned extremely ugly. He refused to give up and whispered, "Brother Sky River, please reconsider. Yi Fei escaped this time. It will be difficult for us to catch him again next time. What is more important between the death of a descendant and killing Yi Fei? That's enough. I will decide what to do." The Sky River Lord scolded Old Man Qingyun, which was rare. Then, he looked at the King of Medicine, who was silent. "King of Medicine, please help me this once." "No problem. Since Sky River Lord has asked, I will naturally obey." The King of Medicine weighed the pros and cons. In the end, they still needed to ally with the Sky River royal family. The King of Medicine could only wave his hand and order the Lord of Heaven to move immediately. They began to move the mountain peak that imprisoned the Grotto Heaven. Only Old Man Qingyun's face turned red and blue. It was very ugly. Yi Fei also looked at the former. Then he raised Gao Sickle, who looked like a half-dead dog, high up. "It seems that you don't mean much to Old Man Qingyun. In that case, I might as well kill you." "No, grandfather, please spare me." Gao Sickle was scared out of his wits. In his desperation, he shouted for help instead of mercy. Countless Lord of Heaven looked at him strangely. Yi Fei almost vomited blood. "Sorry, I don't have such a cowardly grandson like you. It's better to just kill him." Bang! Yi Fei stomped his foot again. Another brilliant sword light bloomed under his feet. The Lord of Heaven, Gao Shun, became nervous. "Ancestor, even if Gao Sickle is useless, he is still a direct descendant of the Gao family. Forget it. Out of respect for you, Gao Shun, this old man will save this unfilial grandson one more time. Clear Cloud Pavilion's men, retreat for this old man." Following Old Man Qingyun's command, the entire Qingyun Alliance's marshalists walked out of the mountain array formation one after another. Then, they quickly retreated unwillingly. Without these people presiding over the formation, Yi Fei could clearly feel that the restrictions that sealed the cave had completely loosened. Boom! Without waiting for these martial artists to retreat, Yi Fei's feet had already stepped into the sky and charged towards those mountain peaks. Whistling sword lights constantly erupted from his feet and turned into resplendent sword stars, destroying all of these mountain peaks. Above the forest peaks, a mysterious black fog appeared once again. It was the heavenly Tao tree. Sensing that Yi Fei had broken the seal outside, it immediately opened the cave and began to madly absorb the heaven realm's profound qi of heaven and earth. Then, it channeled large amounts of profound qi into the bodies of the severely injured soaring serpent and the Lord of Heaven. As a Tao Lord, the soaring serpent's body was riddled with holes. But under the stimulation of the boundless, profound energy, the soaring serpent's wounds began to heal at an extremely fast rate. Whoosh! Under the heavenly Tao tree, soaring serpent opened his lantern-like eyes. A complicated look flashed across his originally sinister snake eyes. In order to save the ancestor, this ye-brat was willing to risk his life to face two Tao lords. The most unbelievable thing is that he actually succeeded. Soaring Serpent had always been reluctant to submit to Yi Fei. He even harbored a faint hatred. However, this hatred suddenly showed signs of dissipating when Yi Fei walked out of the cave and faced Lord Sky River, an old man, Qingyun alone. On the other side, the Lord of Heaven's expression was equally complicated. Perhaps following a master like Yi Fei isn't a bad thing. At least, when we're in danger, he won't easily abandon us as pawns. Demon Yi, we've already done what you wanted us to do. The mountain peaks are already destroyed. Are you still not going to let them go? Tao Lord Heavenly Tao roared. They could only watch helplessly as Yi Fei unraveled the trap they had painstakingly set up. The Lord of Heaven and Old Man Qingyun, who had paid a heavy price to injure Soaring Serpent and Lord Sky River, would also recover from their injuries. The Medicine King and Old Man Qingyun were both enraged. The other martial artists of the Qingyun Alliance were retreating. However, these three powerhouses did not budge an inch. They were closely following Yi Fei from three different directions. They did not give Yi Fei any chance to break through and escape into the cave. Yi Fei's expression turned grave. Although he had broken through the Lord of Heaven, there was no way he could win when surrounded by two Tao Lords and one Lord of Heaven. Fortunately, the mountain peaks that sealed the cave have been destroyed. There's no need for me to continue staying outside and risking my life. Yi Fei stepped into the air. Layers of sword light formed the mysterious pattern of the Taiji 8 trigrams. They blasted towards Lord Sky River and Old Man Qingyun. Old Man Qingyun's expression changed. He could not suppress the anger in his heart. Lord Sky River also roared. Yi Fei, if you don't release Bai Long, I'll make sure you die with him, even if I have to sacrifice Bai Long. Clearly, Yi Fei's action of delaying the release of Bai Long had thoroughly angered Lord Sky River. Knowing that continuing to capture Bai Long might backfire, Yi Fei did not hesitate. He suddenly flung his right hand into the distance. Yi Fei threw Bai Long's severely injured ghost infant into the distance like a rag doll. At the same time, Yi Fei suddenly lifted his leg and kicked forward. The strong force had already turned into a purple-gold sword light. It whistled and slashed towards Bai Long. Lord Sky River, who was about to kill Yi Fei, was shocked. Between killing Yi Fei and saving Bai Long, Lord Sky River ultimately chose the latter. He roared angrily. His entire body turned into a green-faced corpse king with fangs. He charged towards Bai Long and shattered Yi Fei's purple gold sword light. Bastard die. Old Man Qingyun did not have the same qualms as Lord Sky River. After all, he had plenty of grandchildren. Gao Yu's talent was not the strongest in the Gao family. Old Man Qingyun decided to give up. He would rather kill Yi Fei without caring about Gao Yu's life. At the same time that Yi Fei threw Bai Long and released his sword light, Lord Sky River had already formed a green cloud palm again. It shattered the void and blasted forward. However, this green cloud palm did not hit Yi Fei. At the critical moment, Yi Fei threw Gao Yu in front of him again. No, Grandpa, spare me. Seeing the green cloud palm coming towards him and Old Man Qingyun's unfamiliar and ruthless gaze, Gao Yu was completely terrified. Gao Sickle was completely terrified. Then he saw his body, his heavenly palace, and his soul explode like fireworks under the Tao Lord's divine ability. Gao Yu still could not believe that he had not died at the hands of Yi Fei. Instead, he had been killed by Old Man Qingyun's Lord Sky River mystique. Of course, Old Man Qingyun could be so heartless as to give up the life of his own grandson. He only had one goal, to kill Yi Fei at all costs. This was also the gift that Old Man Qingyun had decided to give to Wine Cloud Hall. Boom. Chapter 2220. The Medicine King's demise, a teardrop suddenly fell from Old Man Qingyun's face. Little Sickle, don't worry. I've already killed your enemy for you. What a hypocritical old dog. You were even willing to kill your own grandson with a single palm strike in order to kill me. Why are you still shedding fake tears now? A purplish gold light suddenly erupted from the green cloud vortex that was about to swallow Yi Fei. At this critical juncture, Yi Fei finally stopped hiding and completely activated his nomological golden body. A golden body with 3 levels of the combat demon nomological laws was enough to temporarily block the attack of a Tao Lord. Yi Fei's body was like a torch as he took a few steps forward and quickly broke through Old Man Qingyun's Tao Lord ability. Impossible. This is absolutely impossible. Old Man Qingyun couldn't help rubbing his eyes when he saw this scene with his own eyes. Then he realized that he hadn't seen wrongly. Not only was Yi Fei unharmed in the face of his fatal attack that had sacrificed Gao's sickle, but he was still full of energy and had broken through the divine ability. What would happen to the Tao Lord's reputation then? Wouldn't Gao's sickle have been killed for nothing? Roar. Old Man Qingyun was infuriated when he thought of this. He roared furiously. If 1 palm strike isn't enough, then 2. If 2 palms aren't enough, then 10. I don't believe that a freak like you is made of iron. Boom, boom, boom. Old Man Qingyun started to go crazy. Green clouds appeared in the sky one after another and engulfed Yi Fei. Dong, dong, dong. Yi Fei's footsteps could be heard amidst the chaotic green clouds. In the end, his footsteps formed a strange resonance with the heavens and earth, making Yi Fei seem to have transformed into a true combat demon. He ignored everything and strode forward. Yi Fei's golden body of laws shook violently under the attack of the green clouds, and its light dimmed at a speed visible to the naked eye. However, Yi Fei did not stop moving. He continued to charge toward the black fog in the space of the grotto heaven as fast as he could. How can this be? Old Man Qingyun released so many Tao Lord abilities, but he still can't kill Demon Yi? Oh my god, when did the Baiyun Nation produce such an incredible genius? So what if he's a genius? Although his golden body is powerful, it can only withstand a dozen attacks from a Tao Lord. At most 10 attacks, his golden body defense will be broken. At that moment, Sky River Tao Lord rescued by Lung and walked over from afar. His words were also clearly heard by Old Man Qingyun. As the saying went, the onlooker could not see the bigger picture. Old Man Qingyun had originally despaired over Yi Fei's nomological golden body. However, Sky River Lord's words gave Old Man Qingyun hope of killing Yi Fei once again. The entire sky. Old Man Qingyun's furious roar echoed. This time, the Tao Lord didn't release spells one by one. Instead, he burned his essence and released several terrifying spells at once. Boom! At the same time that Old Man Qingyun burned his Tao Lord's origin, Yi Fei also burned his Lord of Heaven's origin. This made his golden body of laws even stronger and faster. Although Yi Fei was fast, Old Man Qingyun's Tao Lord abilities were even faster. After dodging 2 of the attacks, Old Man Qingyun's 3rd and 4th attacks came crashing down on Yi Fei's body. In addition to the damage that his golden body of laws had suffered, his golden body of laws finally reached its limit. The entire golden body was covered in cracks. With a boom, it turned into a purple gold stream of light that filled the sky. Yi Fei couldn't help but bleed from the corner of his mouth. His golden body was shattered. His body also took the full brunt of the Tao Lord's abilities. His body suffered a certain degree of damage. This is a good opportunity. I'll kill this kid and present him to Baiyun Divine Lord. My chance to make a contribution is right in front of me. The King of Medicine laughed sinisterly as he charged at Yi Fei. He had been waiting for an opportunity to make a move on Yi Fei. The best time to strike was when Yi Fei's golden body was shattered and he was vomiting blood from his injuries. The powerful aura of the Lord of Heaven immediately appeared on the King of Medicine's body. A medicinal cauldron appeared in his hand. The cauldron was burning like a blazing sun. Suddenly, It came crashing down on Yi Fei. It's over. Yi Fei is dead for sure. The dust has settled in the Bayou Nation. What a pity. I thought that a new power would emerge and break the dominance of the Qingyun alliance. It seems like there's no hope now. Many leaders of the various powers shook their heads. If Yi Fei's golden body was still intact, they would still take a second look at Yi Fei. Now that Yi Fei's golden body was destroyed, it was only a matter of time before he died at the hands of the Tao Lord and the Lord of Heaven. There were even many leaders of the various powers who shook their heads and turned around. They planned to take the initiative to pledge their allegiance to the Qingyun alliance the next day. These people didn't see that Yi Fei didn't panic in the face of the King of Medicine's sneak attack. Instead, he smiled coldly. Boom! Without any warning, endless lightning appeared on his body. Then, a woman covered in lightning walked out of the beastmark space. This woman was none other than Lu Qing. She was also the huge surprise that Yi Fei had prepared for the King of Medicine. Just as the King of Medicine was feeling smug and confident that he had Yi Fei under control, Lu Qing made her move. Lu Qing was usually very quiet. However, once she started fighting, this goddess would immediately become the most terrifying mother of lightning. This was especially so after her bloodline was upgraded to grade 7. Lu Qing's natural mystique had also improved tremendously. At this moment, Lu Qing released her upgraded natural mystique for the first time. It was still a bolt of purple lightning. However, it was different from ordinary purple lightning. This bolt of purple lightning was surrounded by countless lightning symbols. Heavenly lightning rune. Boom! Following Lu Qing's shout, the purple lightning suddenly tore 2 huge holes in the sky. The King of Medicine would never have imagined that there would be a person hiding on Yi Fei's body. Moreover, it was a very beautiful and ferocious woman from the Lord of Heaven. After all, special spaces like the Beastmark space could only be created by the human emperors of the Earth domain. At this moment, when Yi Fei revealed this trump card, the King of Medicine was instantly caught off guard. Lu Qing's purple lightning landed squarely on the King of Medicine's body, causing him to be paralyzed in an instant. At this moment, Yi Fei suddenly drew his sword. The moment the King of Medicine was paralyzed by the purple lightning and couldn't move, he suddenly slashed the King of Medicine's neck with his dark steel heavy sword. Poof! The last thing the King of Medicine saw was his head moving further and further away from his body. Finally, a hand suddenly grabbed his hair bun. That hand was Yi Fei's hand. As for Yi Fei's other hand, it was tightly grabbed by Lu Qing. With the fastest speed, they rushed back into the black fog of Lin Feng's space. Chapter 22-21. The search for Riza, however, no matter how much they shouted, it was useless. Just like how the Trants were unable to come out of the Grotto Heaven, Old Man Qingyun and Sky River Lord did not dare to charge up the mountain and into the spatial black mist. Moreover, with the death of the King of Medicine, the entire Bayou Nation was facing a reshuffling of power. Without the King of Medicine, the Medicine Manor was destined to be annexed. Old Man Qingyun and Sky River Lord roared loudly, but they had a tacit understanding. Neither of them had the intention to chase after Yi Fei. Instead, it was Sky River Lord who seized the opportunity to speak first. The King of Medicine is dead, but the Medicine Manor cannot be without a leader. In my opinion, my corpse army will temporarily take over the Medicine Manor. What do you think? Sure, the Medicine Manor will be temporarily controlled by Brother Sky River. However, the people in the Medicine Manor are all members of the Qingyun Alliance. They will follow me back to the Qingyun Pavilion. Old Man Qingyun unceremoniously revealed his ferocious fangs. As for Gao Yin's death, Old Man Qingyun was not sad at all. He only felt a little regret. 3 days later, the chaos in the Medicine King Manor had completely calmed down. Without the obstruction of the Medicine King, Old Man Qingyun had finally broken through. All the rules of the Bayou Nation had completely swallowed up all the men of the Medicine Manor. Moreover, he was the son of the King of Medicine, who had taken the initiative to bring people to submit. For a moment, countless forces in the Bayou Nation were shocked. Who would have thought that the former second most powerful force in the Bayou Nation would vanish in an instant? No one noticed that Guiyun and the other direct descendants of the Medicine Manor, who had taken the initiative to pledge their allegiance, had cold expressions on their faces. It didn't feel like they were people, but more like corpses. At the same time, the integrated Clear Cloud Pavilion and the imperial family of the Sky River, which controlled a large area of the Medicine Manor, sent out even more people to set up layers of restrictive spells around Linfeng. Tianhe Lord and Old Man Qingyun even personally guarded the mountain closest to the forest peak. They did not give Yifei any chance to break out and destroy the restriction. When the news reached the Grotto Heaven, many people became worried. In the end, the Grotto Heaven was different from the Heaven Realm. There was no Xianqi here. All the Xianqi of heaven and earth had to be absorbed from the outside world. Now that the connection between the paradise and the Heaven Realm had been severed, everyone was unintentionally trapped here. Yifei also received the news that the Azure Cloud Pavilion and the imperial family of the Sky River had sealed the Grotto Heaven again. However, this time, Yifei did not dare to go out and barge into the Grotto Heaven. Instead, he hurriedly gathered everyone to discuss how to deal with it. "My lord, why don't we join forces and fight our way out? If the paradise is sealed, not only will we be unable to cultivate, we will also be constantly depleting the paradise's energy. Sooner or later, the paradise's profound qi will dry up and become a land of death." Mengshi was the first to speak. After a period of recuperation, Mengshi's injuries had completely recovered. At the same time, as the former snake god king who had controlled countless snake slaves, the soaring serpent was extremely knowledgeable. With just a few words, he had pointed out the crux of the matter, causing many people to pale. However, the Lord of Heaven shook his head. "No, we can't charge out. I used to be a high-ranking official in the Medicine Manor. I once estimated Lin Feng's strength. Now, Lin Feng's strength is equivalent to the Medicine Manor at its peak. Even at its peak, the Medicine Manor would not be able to defeat the combined forces of the Emperor of the Sky River and the Azure Cloud Pavilion." This analysis caused everyone's expression to change again. Yifei's expression turned grave as he secretly analyzed Lin Feng's strength. Currently, only Mengshi was a Dao Lord. The Lord of Heaven had him, the Lord of Heaven and Lu Qing. There are also very few sovereigns. Other than Jiang Zhen, Di Fan, and Zhao Qianjun, only Fu Renjie, Peng Bei, and Yi Shaochuan were newly promoted sovereigns. Most of the others had only broken through to the heavenly venerable realm. In the end, our Lin Feng's time in the world is still too short. The Grand Supreme Dean and Shang Jing sighed. "Even if we charge out regardless of the cost and break the seal on the outside world, it's useless. Behind the Bayou Nation, there's still the Wind and Cloud Hall and the Bayou Divine Lord. And our strongest combat trance can't leave this Grotto Heaven. There's no way we can move." Di Fan was also worried and brought up a very serious fact. The combat trance couldn't step out of the Grotto Heaven, so they couldn't escape or move. Even if they used the Divine Essence Gate, it would be useless. This was because this was the unique sealing law of the Grotto Heaven. Only a Divine Lord could break this law. When he thought of this, Yifei's expression became even more serious. After all, he still carried the title of the Master of the Spiritual Realm. Therefore, he had to think of a way to solve this crisis in the Grotto Heaven. "Senior Tian Fa, do you have any suggestions?" Yifei looked at the Tian Fa, Quasi-Emperor. In the entire Earth domain, the Tian Fa Quasi-Emperor wasn't the strongest, but he was the most sinister and the best at scheming. Since Yifei couldn't solve this problem by scheming openly, he could only ask for help from the Tian Fa Quasi-Emperor. The Tian Fa Quasi-Emperor quickly saw through Yifei's thoughts and couldn't help but say angrily, "You only thought of me when you can't solve the problem. If it weren't for Qing, I wouldn't have bothered to come up with any ideas." Although he said this, the Tian Fa Quasi-Emperor still walked quickly toward Yifei and said a few simple words. Lin Tianjiao and the others all pricked up their ears, but they couldn't hear anything. They all cursed in their hearts. How sinister. He actually used telepathy to discuss things. Yifei's expression was very serious. The Tian Fa quasi-emperor only said 4 words to him: join forces with Rizu. It had to be said that this was a very bold and crazy idea. Not only did Yifei destroy Rizu's plan to reincarnate, but he also almost stole Rizu's socks and underwear. Right now, Rizu probably hated him to the core. How could Rizu agree to join forces with him? Perhaps sensing Yifei's hesitation, the Tian Fa quasi-emperor analyzed the situation in a deep voice. There are 4 benefits to joining forces with Rizu. First, with Rizu, we won't have to fear by Yun and the Wind and Cloud Hall who are about to arrive. Second, with Rizu in charge, we can even take over the entire Green Province and turn it into a true stronghold for the people of the Earth Domain. We can establish a country of the Earth Domain. Third, with Rizu at the front, we can clash with the Wind and Cloud Hall. That way, the Wind and Cloud Hall will only focus their full strength on targeting Rizu and will temporarily ignore a small faction like the Lin Peak. This way, we can seize the time to develop our faction. Fourth, the restrictions of the paradise can only be broken by a divine lord and above. If we join forces with Rizu, the remaining people of the spiritual realm will be able to completely leave the paradise. The Tian Fa quasi-emperor spoke frankly and with assurance, fully displaying his glib tongue. Yifei's expression became increasingly strange as he listened, especially the third point. No matter how Yifei listened, he felt that the Tian Fa quasi-emperor was not trying to rope in Rizu, but had specifically dug a hole for Rizu to willingly jump into. However, the 4 benefits of joining forces with the Tian Fa quasi-emperor still made Yifei extremely tempted. He felt that the Tian Fa quasi-emperor was truly a cunning old fox. This was especially true of the last point. With the help of Rizu's power, they could break the seal of the paradise and allow the remaining people of the spiritual realm to completely leave the paradise. Yifei could not refuse such a benefit. Chapter 22-22. Xiankong Valley. Hearing Yifei's words, the Tian Fa quasi-emperor smiled. What's so difficult about that? Didn't you rob Rizu's gate of immortal essence? Such a treasure must be Rizu's strongest trump card for escaping. If I had such a treasure, I would have recorded the safest place in this map. This reminder made Yifei's eyes light up. He stopped talking and quickly took out the gate of immortal essence. There was a star map inside the gate of immortal essence. As long as one followed the markings on the star map and expended one's Xian meridians, one would be able to open a space gate to the heaven realm and teleport to the corresponding location. However, many of the locations on the star map were in the Divine Prefecture and expended a large amount of Xian meridians. Yifei had never looked at it carefully. This time, after the Tian Fa quasi-emperor's reminder, Yifei began to carefully identify the star map. Soon, a special marking caught Yifei's attention. This was because the location indicated required one to expend 100,000 Xian meridians to teleport to. There was even a red cross on it, indicating that it was very dangerous. Under normal circumstances, Yifei would have just glanced at it and let it go. However, after the Tian Fa quasi-emperor's reminder, Yifei realized that something was wrong. Since this was a land of death, why would Rizu specially mark it out? Most importantly, after expending such a huge amount of effort to open the space gate, the place to enter was not the Divine Prefecture, but the Green Prefecture. Could it be that Rizu is hiding here? But I can't afford to expend 100,000 Xian meridians. No, the Gate of Immortal Essence consumes more Xian meridians the longer the distance it teleports. This place is obviously in the Green Prefecture, so how could it expend such an exaggerated amount of Xian meridians? Maybe Rizu is trying to scare me on purpose. With this thought in mind, Yifei could no longer control his curiosity. He casually activated his profound energy and activated the Celestial Essence door. At the same time, he threw in 1,000 Xian meridians. This way, even if the final attempt failed, he would only lose 1,000 Xian meridians. Anyway, after robbing Rizu, I obtained about 50,000 Xian meridians. I don't lack Xian meridians now. Yi Fei walked toward the open space gate of immortal essence. Just like that, Yi Fei disappeared again in front of everyone. The little girl, Ling Siki, was so anxious that she stomped her feet. This time, Yi Fei did not bring her along. Lu Qing and Yi Xiaochan also had looks of regret. If they had known that Yi Fei would leave so quickly, they would have followed him. But they did not know that. Even if they were rich, Yi had to expend thousands of Xian meridians to teleport. Yi's heart was still pained. Come quickly. This time, we have to think of a way to reduce the dragon turtle's meals. Yi Fei thought unhappily. After all, they were going to look for Rizu this time. It was fine if Rizu wanted to take back the gate of immortal essence and the Xian meridians that they had lost. That would be a terrible situation. In the beast-marked space, the dragon turtle did not have the slightest awareness of being frugal. Instead, it used the excuse that it was still a young turtle and needed to eat more to grow faster. While Xiao Qiao was not paying attention, it continuously ate until its shell glowed. However, Xiao Qiao was busy playing with the dragon turtle's dragon pearl and did not notice the dragon turtle's actions. Divine Prefecture, Yinyang Palace. Yang Ming's face was ashen as he listened to his subordinate's report. Ever since he failed to fight for the heavenly lake in Supreme Emperor Heaven, Yang Ming's position in Yinyang Palace was questioned. What made Yang Ming feel even more aggrieved was that Yi Fei was the one who caused him to fail miserably. But in the end, because of anger, he led the disciples of the Yinyang Palace and fiercely fought with the King Soldier sect. Not only did it affect the relationship between the King Soldier sect and the Yinyang Palace, it also caused the dissatisfaction of some of the elders of the Yinyang Palace. Yao Lei, who had become the scapegoat for no reason, regarded Yang Ming as his enemy from then on. However, Yang Ming found it difficult to explain to Yao Lei. After all, as the son of an elder of the Yinyang Palace, he also had status and position. If others knew that he had been played by a nobody like Yi Fei and even misunderstood the royal soldier sect and fought with Yao Lei, he would definitely become the laughingstock of the top 10 forces. Therefore, the only thing Yang Ming could do was to accumulate his anger, and then vent the anger and grievance in his heart on Yi Fei. Under Yang Ming's orders and Yinyang Palace's powerful intelligence network, Yi Fei's identity and location were quickly investigated. Senior Brother Yang, this is the situation. Yi Fei comes from the Baiyun Nation in Qing Province. The Baiyun Nation is a small nation established by the Baiyun Divine Lord of the Wind and Cloud Hall. It is said that the Wind and Cloud Hall has sent news that Yi Fei killed the Baiyun Divine Lord's son, Lu Qianzhou. Baiyun Divine Lord is now leading the men of the Wind and Cloud Hall back to Qing Province to avenge his son. When he heard this, Yang Ming's ashen face immediately showed a hint of anger. How dare you? What is the Wind and Cloud Hall? Tell them immediately to get lost. Yi Fei is mine. He must die in my hands. But senior brother, when we received the news, Lu Baiyun had already set off with the men of the Wind and Cloud Hall. The disciple who was investigating was in a difficult position. Yang Ming couldn't care less. Every time he thought about how he had plotted against Yi Fei in a maze, Yi Fei had plotted against him instead. Not only had he failed miserably, but he had also taken revenge on the wrong person. As a result, he had become enemies with Yao Lei. Yang Ming wished he could strangle Yi Fei to death on the spot. At this moment, in his rage, Yang Ming made a crazy decision. He would lead his men and kill his way into Qing Province before the Baiyun Divine Lord did. Just you wait. No one can trick me, Yang Ming, and still live in this world. Yang Ming walked out of his father's elder palace angrily. If one wanted to enter Qing Province ahead of time, they would have to take a flying boat and travel for a year or two. Otherwise, they would have to exhaust their profound veins to open the space gate and teleport over at the fastest speed. As one of the top 10 forces, Yinyang Palace naturally had the ability to open the space gate. The speed of teleportation through the space gate was also very fast. It only took a day to teleport from Qing Province to the Divine Land. As for teleportation within Qing Province, it would take even less time. It only took about an hour for Yi Fei to teleport from the Grotto Heaven to a canyon at the edge of Qing Province. This canyon was the famous Xiankong Valley in Qing Province. It was said that any martial artist who entered the valley would be pulled into the Pitfall Valley by a mysterious force. Moreover, there were many ferocious beasts hidden in the Pitfall Valley. These vicious beasts were not hunted by warriors and never left the Xiankong Valley. Over time, many powerful, vicious beasts accumulated inside. Chapter 22-23. Qingwan Elder Sister Roar. A giant scorpion was smashed into a meteor by the heavy sword. It flew a few hundred meters into the sky and crashed heavily onto the ground, losing its ability to fight on the spot. The situation in Xiankong Valley was much more complicated than Yi Fei had imagined. He had just entered the valley when he was ambushed by a poisonous scorpion. Fortunately, Xiao Chao's divine eye of the heavens and earth was extremely powerful and discovered the scorpion's attack in advance. Just as Yi Fei swung his sword and smashed the sneaky, poisonous scorpion away, the ground he was standing on suddenly started to shake violently. There was actually an earth dragon here that had turned into a yellow, giant dragon. Under the earth dragon's superpower, the entire valley immediately turned upside down like waves in a hurricane. Layers of earth walls, like inverted mountains, smashed towards Yi Fei. Divine Five Thunders Clock. Yi Fei didn't hesitate. He immediately withdrew his sword and punched out. Rolling thunder carried the might of the Divine Five Thunders and smashed on the Earth Dragon's body continuously. Finally, the Earth Dragon was knocked unconscious on the spot, and the ground returned to normal. Realizing that it could take advantage of the situation, the Dragon Tortoise rushed towards the Earth Dragon like a lackey, wanting to taste the Earth Dragon. How could I forget that the Dragon Tortoise loves to eat dragon meat the most? Even though this Earth Dragon is covered in mud, can it be eaten? Yi Fei curiously watched as the Dragon Tortoise cut the Earth Dragon's meat nimbly. It then took out a black pot and sprayed water to start the fire. It was extremely busy. Roar! The Earth Dragon was only severely injured and unconscious. Who would have thought that a piece of its meat would be cut by a black pig? The Earth Dragon's demon soul was so angry that it roared. This roar instantly attracted the response of countless black figures in the valley. Most of them were vicious beasts in the sovereign realm. In the depths of the valley, Yi Fei felt a few auras that weren't any weaker than the Lord of Heaven. This gave him a shock. The vicious beasts in this valley are so strong. It's fine if it's the Lord of Heaven, but if it's the Tao Lord, I won't be able to escape unscathed. Xiao Chao ran out and patted his little chest, indicating that Xiao Chao would protect Yi Fei. Yi Fei felt relieved. He immediately hugged Xiao Chao and gave him a big kiss. All right, if there's the Lord of Heaven, I'll take care of Tao Lord. Xiao Chao, you can beat him with it. In the end, Xiao Chao's god-beating whip wasn't just the nemesis of souls. It was also the nemesis of vicious beasts. Unless these vicious beasts cultivated into demons, they wouldn't be able to resist Xiao Chao's vine whip. Then, Yi Fei ordered the dragon turtle, Big Black, don't roast the meat yet. Charge forward and disperse these vicious beasts first. Boom! Upon hearing Yi Fei's order, the dragon turtle was in high spirits. It immediately released its sovereign realm aura. However, it didn't charge toward the powerful vicious beasts. Instead, it targeted a heavenly venerable iron-armored ferocious boar and viciously charged toward it. As a sovereign realm expert, the dragon turtle naturally displayed its might and beat the iron-armored ferocious boar until it cried out in pain. Yi Fei's face twitched when he saw this. He wanted nothing more than to drag the dragon turtle out and beat it up. His original intention was for the dragon turtle to fight against the strong. In the end, this lousy turtle actually ran over to bully the weak. At the same time, the dragon turtle's arrogance angered the other vicious beasts. All the vicious beasts at the heavenly venerable realm charged toward the dragon turtle furiously. The other vicious beasts at the sovereign realm mostly looked at the dragon turtle with disdain. They didn't even look at the cowardly dragon turtle. They just lowered their heads and charged toward Yifei. Yifei also snorted coldly. He swung the heavy sword in his hand and charged toward the vicious beasts. The divine Five Thunders clock and golden body of laws were activated at the same time. The evil sword law and divine dragon law both appeared. Roar! Following Yi Fei's summons, a divine dragon of law rushed out of the void. This was the number one demonic beast of law in supreme Emperor Heaven. Compared to the vicious beasts of flesh and blood, the divine dragon of law was even more fearless. It was also an unparalleled existence in the sovereign realm. The battle only lasted for a few breaths. A large number of the vicious beasts attacking Yi Fei had already been beaten back by the divine dragon of law. Big Black, follow me closely. Protect Xiao Qiao while you're at it. Xiao Qiao waved his hand, indicating that he didn't need the dragon turtle's protection. The god-beating whip in his hand had already transformed into a dozen phantom shadows. The ordinary vicious beasts at the sovereign realm had their energy absorbed by the god-beating whip before they could even get close to Xiao Qiao. They looked at Xiao Qiao with fear in their eyes. Roar! When the vicious beasts realized that they couldn't stop Yi Fei, a loud roar suddenly came from the depths of the valley. It came from a divine bull, a moose, a Qingwan, and a golden lion. The four Lord of Heaven vicious beasts rushed out together. 3 of them rushed toward Yi Fei while the divine bull furiously rushed toward the dragon turtle. The dragon turtle still didn't know that a calamity was about to befall it. It was in the middle of unleashing its might and beating a heavenly venerate divine bull until it cried out in pain. Suddenly, the old divine bull rushed over and whipped out its tail, knocking the dragon turtle to the ground. Only then did the dragon turtle wake up. As it desperately rolled toward Yi Fei, the dragon turtle continuously released poisonous winds. The old divine bull was fine, but the young divine bull was hit by the poisonous winds and fell to the ground, its entire body turning green. "How dare you hurt my son? Die, black turtle! Moo moo!" The old divine ox was enraged. Its eyes, which were as big as copper bells, were glaring at the dragon tortoise with bloodshot eyes. The ox's hoof came crashing down with the force of a heavy mountain. It was a critical moment. The dragon turtle once again displayed its powerful escape technique. The dragon turtle's body fiercely bounced towards the ground. Its entire tortoise body had already bounced up several tens of meters. It actually managed to escape the sure kill hoof of the divine ox. The divine bull's eyes widened. Yi Fei turned his face away and pretended not to know the dragon turtle. Xiao Qiao, on the other hand, rushed over angrily with his vine whip when he saw that the dragon turtle was being bullied. The old divine bull was frightened. It had witnessed the power of Xiao Qiao's holy whip with its own eyes. The old divine bull immediately protected the young divine bull. At the same time, it roared and asked, "Who are you people? Why did you break into our Xiankong Valley?" "Greetings, Senior. My name is Yi Fei. May I ask if there is a person called Rizu in the Xiankong Valley?" Yi Fei was very polite. Even though he was surrounded by 3 vicious beasts, he was still calm and composed. His golden body of laws was like a burning star, causing Yi Fei's aura to become even more terrifying. In the end, this aura formed an invisible war demon aura that suppressed the other 3 vicious beasts of the Lord of Heaven. They could not breathe as they looked at Yi Fei. They also became fearful. "This seems to be the golden body of despair," Qingwan said in a frightened voice. It was actually the voice of a little girl. "Don't be fooled. You can't reveal anything about Master." The golden lion immediately glared at Qingwan. Qingwan also lowered her head and showed a wronged expression. However, Qingwan's words still revealed a very important piece of information. If they knew about the golden body of despair, then it must be related to Rizu and the heavenly palace of despair. Yi Fei immediately bowed to Qingwan and said, "Little sister, don't worry. I'm not a bad person. I'm also a member of the heavenly palace of despair. In fact, I'm Rizu's brother." "Nonsense. Master is an existence like you. How can he be your brother?" The divine bull, golden lion, and elk were furious. They did not believe Yi Fei's words at all. Qingwan, on the other hand, was overjoyed. She asked happily, "What did you call me just now? I'm the youngest here. How can I be your sister?" Chapter 22-24. Nation of vicious beasts, the divine ox's face was indifferent. The elk's face was full of displeasure, and the golden lion roared fiercely, "Boy, don't try to make connections. Who is your brother? Who is your sister? Qingwan, your cultivation is still short. Don't be fooled by this boy's flowery words." Qingwan smiled and said, "I think he's not bad. He's very polite. However, you said that you and Master are brothers. What proof do you have?" "Why wouldn't I? Big sister, look, this was personally given to me by Senior Rizu." She knew that she wouldn't be able to see Rizu if she didn't give him some benefits. Yi Fei could only admit his loss and take out the dragon skin battle robe and the thunder battle boots. Both the divine ox and the golden lion elk were shocked. "That's the true dragon battle robe. Master used to wear it when he went to war. How did it fall into this kid's hands? Also, the thunder battle boots were personally made by my mother. I saw them when I was young. Why are these things in your hands?" Qingwan was also very surprised, but after seeing these two items, he lowered his guard and took the initiative to approach Yi Fei. Seeing this, the divine ox and the other two were also very nervous and prepared to fight at any time. However, Yi Fei didn't hurt Qingwan. Instead, he put on an honest smile and reminisced, "It's a long story. Senior brother Rizu and I got to know each other through a fight. I helped senior brother Rizu escape and return to the Xiankong Valley. Senior brother Rizu wanted to thank me for my help and gave me his dragon skin battle robe and thunder boots. He also said that as long as I have these two items, I can visit him in the Xiankong Valley at any time." As he said this, Yi Fei couldn't help but blush. He felt that his story this time was too ridiculous. But in order to protect Lin Feng and the Grotto Heaven world, Yi Fei could only brace himself and spout nonsense. He was gambling this time. He was gambling that Rizu would be too embarrassed to reveal what had happened back then. Clearly, Yi Fei had made the right bet. As Renzu, he had actually been robbed by an insignificant ruler and forced to flee naked. It would be strange if Rizu would tell anyone about such a humiliating experience. In addition, Yi Fei had indeed taken out the dragon skin battle robe and thunder battle boots. The three divine bulls were skeptical of Yi Fei's words. Qingwan was prejudiced by her first impression of Yi Fei. She chuckled and said, "Little brother, you're actually Master's benefactor. It seems like you're really Master's junior brother. How about this? Big sister will help you pass on the message." Yi Fei was overjoyed. He thanked her again. "Then I'll have to trouble you, elder sister. You're the kindest and most beautiful fairy I've ever seen." "Of course not. I'm still young. How can I compare to fairy?" Qingwan was overjoyed. The more she looked at Yi Fei, the more she liked him. "Little brother, get on my back first. Big sister will take you to see Master." As she spoke, Qingwan had already flapped her wings and created a gust of wind. She carried Yi Fei, Xiao Qiao, and the dragon turtle on her back. Only then did she happily hum a song and flew into the depths of Xiankong Valley. The vicious beasts along the way naturally didn't dare to stop her. The golden lion and the elk were even more stunned. Didn't we just say that she would only pass on the message? Why did fourth sister suddenly take him directly? The divine bull clenched his fists tightly. 2 puffs of white smoke came out of his nostrils. Fourth sister isn't a reckless person. Since she has acknowledged this boy, it means that he can't be that bad. Unfortunately, he's too good at coaxing little girls. If he was a Master junior brother, I would have beaten him to death with my hooves. Moo moo. The little divine bull followed behind the old divine bull. At this moment, the little divine bull also took the opportunity to whine and complain about the dragon turtle. Ever since the dragon turtle bullied the little divine bull and beat the little divine bull, the dragon turtle's enmity with the little divine bull could be said to have been completely formed. The area of the Xiankong Valley was very large. It was like a huge country. However, there were no humans in this country. Instead, it was filled with ferocious beasts. It was a country of ferocious beasts. Under Qinghuan's lead, Yi Fei soon entered the depths of Xiankong Valley. To his surprise, he found a magnificent capital city here. The capital city was built with stones. There were no exquisite decorations or exquisite formations, but it was full of the wonders of heaven and earth. In the capital city, powerful vicious beasts could be seen everywhere. Just the number of vicious beasts alone was in the tens of thousands. Moreover, the vicious beasts had strong physiques. Even warriors of the same realm would find it difficult to defeat them. When Yi Fei saw the tens of thousands of vicious beasts, he felt as if he had seen an army of tens of thousands. He was secretly shocked. When they saw Qinghuan bringing a human into the city, many vicious beasts in the city looked at them curiously. Many of them even whispered to each other loudly. Yi Fei was very curious about the vicious beast's words. He quickly asked Qinghuan, "Sister Qinghuan, what are they talking about?" Qinghuan didn't answer. She just continued flying towards the capital city. She seemed to be laughing. Yi Fei couldn't help but feel puzzled. He could only look at the dragon turtle. The dragon turtle simply raised a small wooden sign and said, "They said that you are really ugly." They also said. Yi Fei's gaze turned cold. He inadvertently glared at the dragon turtle. For the sake of its future job, the dragon turtle decisively shut up and didn't dare to continue translating. Finally, Qinghuan stopped in a very ancient palace. There was a huge statue inside. It wasn't a human figure, but a strange vicious beast with lightning wrapped around its body. Lightning beast? Could it be that Rizu isn't a human, but a demon formed by vicious beasts? Yi Fei said in surprise. "That's right, little brother, don't you know?" Qinghuan was very puzzled. However, she still quickly brought Yi Fei in front of the statue. She also extended her wings and cupped her hands. "Master, Qinghuan has brought your junior brother. He said that he wanted to give you a surprise." Qinghuan was very pleased. She looked like a little girl who was asking for a reward. Her words finally startled the statue. Rizu's haggard voice, as if he had just woken up from a dream, came from the statue. "Junior brother? My senior brothers and junior brothers have already been destroyed along with the heavenly palace of despair. They either died or scattered. Where did this junior brother come from? I won't see him. Just kill him and give him to the children to improve their meals." Rizu was very ferocious. Xinyo and the other two had been waiting for this opportunity. They were about to summon the army of vicious beasts in the city to trample Yi Fei to death. Yi Fei was not flustered in the face of danger. He strode forward and cupped his hands in a deep voice. "Senior brother Rizu, long time no see. This junior brother has come with a request." "It's you. You actually have the guts to come see me. All right, what did you call me just now?" "Senior brother, you demon. I wish I could strangle you to death. Who's your senior brother?" Boom! Rizu was furious. Ever since he entered the progenitor realm, Rizu's greatest setback was not his death in battle. Instead, it was when he was robbed by Yi Fei in the Thunder God's coffin. Not only did he lose the most important crystal love and celestial door, but even his clothes and boots were taken away. At that time, Rizu was glad that he ran fast enough. Otherwise, he might not have been able to keep his underwear and socks. Now that he had met his enemy, Rizu was no longer envious. Instead, his eyes were so wide that they almost burst. At the same time, an astonishing power of Rizu came crashing down on Yi Fei like a storm. He wished he could crush Yi Fei in a powder on the spot. Seeing this, Yi Fei was not afraid. His body shook as he summoned the Law Divine Dragon above his head. His body burned with purple gold flames. Chapter 22-25. Goodbye. Rizu, the golden body of despair, was the strongest martial art of the heavenly palace of despair. When cultivated to the limit, one could even fight against an ancient emperor. Even Rizu couldn't cultivate it. He walked the Tao of lightning. Yi Fei's performance naturally shocked Rizu. Yi Fei sighed. "Senior brother, you don't know. I've always walked the Tao of despair. It's just that I don't have a follow-up technique. Thanks to senior brother's guidance in the heavenly abode, I was enlightened and cultivated the true golden body of despair. Thank you, senior brother. Yifei's sincere expression didn't seem fake. He even deliberately covered up Rizu's defeat in the heavenly abode. Rizu gritted his teeth in hatred, but he couldn't attack Yifei now. Of course, the most important thing was that the lightning ancestor was extremely curious about Yifei's intentions. Moreover, he currently only had a weak sliver of his divine sense and was unable to use the human ancestor's physical body. It would be difficult for him to kill Yifei, but the lightning ancestor would never admit that he was actually afraid of Yifei. Both sides were silent for a while. Rizu's killing intent slowly dissipated. He said coldly, "No matter what you're here for, you're a guest. Do you dare to come in?" All of a sudden, a heavy stone door opened in the belly of the lightning beast statue. Knowing that the lightning ancestor's true body was hidden inside, Yifei didn't even bother to look at it. With a serious expression, he walked in. This kid is bold. He's not afraid of angering master and killing him. Divine ox, golden lion, and elk discuss together. Don't talk nonsense. Little brother is actually quite honest and a good person. Qingwan spoke up for Yifei with her wings akimbo. Divine ox, golden lion, and golden lion had strange expressions. It's not like fourth sister hasn't seen anyone before. She's quite good-looking too. Why is she so easily fooled by that kid? Especially when he's so ugly. It's just that his mouth is evil. He only knows how to make little girls happy. We have to keep a close eye on him. Fourth sister is still young. We can't let that brat cheat her away. The three divine bulls kept muttering to themselves. They were even considering whether they should kill Yifei to prevent future trouble. Walking through the stone door in the thunder beast's stomach, Yifei discovered that there was actually a hidden palace. At the top of the palace, there was a brand new ancient coffin. At this moment, Rizu was bare-chested and barefoot. He was only wearing underwear and socks. He stared at Yifei with incomparable coldness. His gaze could even pierce through Yifei's soul. "Surnamed Yi, you really have guts. Speak. What do you want from me this time?" Yifei was a little surprised. Why does senior brother say that? Who's your senior brother? Rizu was furious. His consciousness rushed out of the ancient coffin. He pointed at Yifei and cursed. "If it wasn't for you, I would have already possessed Lu Qianzhong and obtained a new life. You caused me to fail the possession and even robbed me of so many treasures. Do you think I'm stupid? If it wasn't for the fact that you encountered some unsolvable problem and needed my help, would you have taken the risk to come see me? Senior brother, you're really stupid. Who told you that you would be cured of the poison of the void if you succeeded in the possession? To tell you the truth, the poison of the void has spread to your soul. If you really possessed Lu Qianzhong, not only would you lose your powerful Thunder Beast body, the poison of the void would also follow your soul and spread to your new body. Do you believe me? So you're saying that you saved me by stopping me from possessing him?" Rizu's eyes were almost spitting fire. "That's right. You should thank me because I'm the only one who can cure you of the poison of the void." Yifei's voice was sonorous and full of confidence. Moreover, he realized that Rizu didn't seem to know how to cure the poison of the void. This gave him more room for negotiation. Rizu was tempted by Yifei's offer. However, after suffering a loss once, Rizu didn't dare to believe him so easily. Instead, he asked in a low voice, "You know about the poison of the void too?" "Of course. The poison of the void is a special poison released by the void serpent. Not only is it incurable, but can also penetrate deep into the target's soul, causing their body to die and their soul to disappear completely. They will return to the void. Even Renzu would die if he was bitten by it. To be honest, if you weren't a thunder beast and didn't have an innate resistance to poison, you definitely wouldn't have survived until now. It's also very easy to cure the poison of the void serpent." Yifei spoke frankly with assurance. He had the air of an alchemy grandmaster. Rizu was also listening attentively without realizing it. However, the most hateful thing was that Yifei suddenly stopped talking at the most critical moment. This made Rizu almost go crazy. He couldn't help but ask anxiously, "What's next? Hurry up and tell me." Yifei calmly cupped his hands and said solemnly, I can tell you how to cure the poison of the void, but senior brother must help me with a few small things. Who's your senior brother? Don't try to claim connections. Rizu was furious. However, when he thought about how he still needed to find a cure for the poison of the void through Yifei, Rizu's expression darkened. He softened his tone and said, What small things? Let's hear them. It's very simple. Recently, a godly lord will lead the forces of the storm palace of the divine land to deal with me. I hope that senior brother can help me kill this godly lord. Yifei stated his conditions. Rizu was suddenly in a good mood when he heard this. You even dare to rob me. Are you afraid of a mere godly lord? That's different. Xiao Chao can beat you up with one hand to deal with you. However, I have no other way to deal with that godly lord. I can only ask senior brother to help me. Yifei was very helpless. If possible, he really didn't want to cooperate with Rizu. The lightning ancestor gave a muffled groan. However, Rizu had to obtain the cure for the poison of the void. He could only swallow his anger and say, Tell me how to cure the poison of the void. When I recover my cultivation, I can kill even 10 godly lords if I want to. All right, when you kill that godly lord, I will definitely give you the antidote for the poison of the void. Yifei wasn't stupid. If he told Rizu how to cure the poison of the void now, what would he do if this old monster turned hostile? No, you have to give me the antidote first. Otherwise, if I can't recover my cultivation, how can I help you kill the godly lord? Rizu wasn't stupid either. Ever since he suffered a huge loss, Rizu was afraid of Yifei. At this time, he was especially vigilant. Yifei smiled at this and said confidently, It's fine. Actually, senior brother doesn't have to kill Bai Yun the Divine Lord. As long as senior brother releases Renzu's power at an appropriate time, I think Bai Yun the Divine Lord will be so scared that he will flee back to China overnight. Rizu groaned again and shook his head resolutely. No, I'm most afraid of honest people like you. You usually don't say a word, but when you're trying to trick me, you act like you're dead. I don't dare to trust you. Hearing this, Yifei was extremely depressed. Then, he thought of something and said, With our current relationship, it's indeed difficult for us to trust each other. Rizu, how about this? Since we're both from the heavenly palace of despair, why don't we take this opportunity to become true brothers? Chapter 22-26. Yang Ming's revenge. At the same time, Yang Ming proposed a plan to hunt down the remaining members of the heavenly palace of despair using his father's status as an elder. He finally received approval from the higher-ups of the Yin-Yang Palace. However, Qingzhou was still within the sphere of influence of the Wind Cloud Palace. In order not to excessively provoke the Wind Cloud Palace, the higher-ups of the Yin-Yang Palace rejected Yang Ming's request to send a divine emperor. After all, in the eyes of the Yin-Yang Palace, Yifei, who was merely in the Lord of Heaven realm, was just a small fry. If the Yin-Yang Palace sent a divine emperor, wouldn't it be a joke? Yang Ming had no choice but to lead the Dao Lords under his father to open the space gate and enter Qingzhou directly from the divine land. Of course, in order not to cause a misunderstanding with the Wind Cloud Palace, the Yin-Yang Palace still informed the Wind Cloud Palace to a certain extent. Bai Yun Divine Emperor, who received the news, was naturally overjoyed. He could not wait to befriend the Yin-Yang Palace, one of the top 10 forces. For this reason, Bai Yun Divine Emperor did not hesitate to use a certain ultra-long distance transmission method to inform the medicine manor that the Yin-Yang Palace was about to enter Qingzhou. He also sternly instructed the Medicine King to take good care of the distinguished guests of the Yin-Yang Palace. However, Bai Yun Divine Emperor, who sent the message, did not know that the Medicine King was no longer in charge of the Medicine Manor, but Sky River Great Dao and Blue Cloud Great Dao. The two Dao Lords had never dreamed that the major forces of the Divine Land, which rarely came once in decades or even centuries, would rush to Qingzhou one after another. Sky River Great Dao Lord's expression turned grave. What made him helpless was that, as a Dao Lord, he could do whatever he wanted in Qingzhou. However, In the eyes of the major forces in the divine prefecture, an emperor of a small country like him was at most a rich man in the countryside and had no status at all. The only thing the two Tao lords could do was to leave the Lord of Heaven under their command and wait respectfully around the teleportation formation of the imperial palace, waiting for the major forces of the divine land to arrive. As the news spread, 3 women among the people who submitted to the Qingyun pavilion quietly left the crowd and sneaked out of Qingyun City, heading in the direction of Linfeng. These 3 women were none other than the 3 people that Yi Fei had saved in Rizu's tomb. Like Lu Qing, they were tools that Bai Yun God Lord had used to obtain Rizu's inheritance. It was Yi Fei who had saved them from disaster. Out of gratitude, they had all volunteered to infiltrate the Clear Cloud Pavilion and Medicine Manor. Now, when they heard that the top 10 forces of the Divine Prefecture were coming to deal with Yi Fei, they were all scared out of their wits. They could only hurriedly inform Linfeng. As they left, a huge gate opened in the palace of Qingyun City. At the same time, 10 Tao lords emerged from within. This force alone was enough to sweep through the entire Green Province. Escorted by the 10 Tao lords, an extremely young man walked out of the realm gate with a cold expression on his face. While Sky River Lord was shocked, he had no choice but to bow to Yang Ming with Old Man Qingyun. I am Sky River Lord and Tao Lord Qingyun. Greetings, young Master Yang Ming and all the seniors of the Yin Yang Palace. We have already prepared a banquet to welcome all of you. Cut the crap. The banquet can be held at any time. However, I want Yi Fei's head now. Tell me, where is Yi Fei? Boom! Yang Ming was enraged and murderous. He had suffered so much at the hands of Yi Fei in Supreme Emperor Sky. Yang Ming had endured this debt for too long. Now that he had come to Green Province, he only had one goal, and that was to kill Yi Fei and avenge his humiliation. Yang Ming couldn't even be bothered to look at the 2 Tao lords, Sky River Lord and Qingyun. Old Man Qingyun and Sky River Lord had ugly expressions on their faces. If it had been an ordinary ruler who had dared to speak to them in such a manner, they would have already killed him. However, the person who ignored them this time was the young master of the Yin Yang Palace. Even if they were given 10 guts, they wouldn't dare to be angry at Yang Ming. They could only hold back their anger and smile. Don't worry, young master. Yi Fei has already been blocked by us in the Grotto Heaven. He doesn't dare to take half a step out. However, there is a mysterious race in the Grotto Heaven. They're very powerful, and we can't attack them at all. Mysterious race, my ass. They're just a bunch of stray dogs hiding in the Grotto Heaven. No matter what race they are, they're doomed as long as there is no divine lord. Yang Ming had a fierce look on his face as he ordered Sky River Lord and Old Man Qingyun. Now, gather all your troops and follow me to attack the Grotto Heaven. Swoosh! Sky River Tao Lord and Old Man Qingyun turned pale. Given their shrewdness, how could they not know that Yang Ming was clearly using them as cannon fodder to pave the way for the Yin Yang Palace to attack the Grotto Heaven? Sadly, even though they knew that this was a suicide mission, Sky River Lord and Old Man Qingyun didn't dare to object under the watchful eyes of the 10 Tao Lords of the Yin Yang Palace. Not only were they unable to object, but they could only gather all their subordinates as quickly as possible. And in this gathering, the disappearance of the 3 female rulers was very obvious. Yang Ming also received the news immediately. He was furious and ordered on the spot, "The 2 of you, gather your men immediately and stop Yi Fei from breaking out. The rest of you, follow me to set up the Yin Yang Great Formation. Completely refine the Grotto Heaven for me and cut off Yi Fei's escape route." Yes, young master. The 10 Tao lords who came this time were all subordinates of Yang Ming's father. Naturally, they carried out Yang Ming's orders meticulously. Just as Sky River Lord and Old Man Qingyun were forced to lead their troops to attack the Grotto Heaven, the 10 Tao lords had already taken out a Yin Yang formation disc and rushed towards the Grotto Heaven. They spread out in 10 directions and prepared to completely seal the Grotto Heaven. Senior sister, this is the situation. This time, not only is Bai Yin Divine Lord coming to deal with you, but also people from the Wind and Cloud Hall. You should quickly abandon the grotto heaven and escape. On the forest peak, 3 women were persuading Lu Qing to escape. Lu Qing's face was pale, but she had no intention of escaping. No, I can't leave. My family is here. My foundation is here. You should escape first. With that, Lu Qing hurriedly ran into the black mist. Seeing that Lu Qing had no intention of escaping, the 3 women knew that Yi Fei had already repaid their debt of gratitude. They did not have the courage to stay behind. They hurriedly packed their luggage and left the forest peak as quickly as possible, escaping the Baiyun nation. In the grotto heaven, Lu Qing immediately informed everyone of the news. However, she did not panic as much as the outsiders imagined. After all, those who could enter the heaven domain were the most elite of the earth domain. Not only did they have to be strong enough to withstand the test, but they also had to be loyal. Since Yi Fei was not around, the senior Sky Wrath Boundary Emperor and the Grand Supreme Dean took up the responsibility of presiding over this meeting. The Heavenly Tao tree also took a rare human form and appeared in the void. Chapter 22-27. Yin-Yang Godly Formation. We can't stop them. If it were any other faction, they wouldn't be a match for the Treants as long as they don't have a Divine Lord. However, the Yin-Yang Palace is different. They have a very powerful formation called the Yin-Yang Godly Formation. This formation can reverse Yin and Yang and refine grotto heavens. In other words, they don't need to enter the grotto heavens to reverse Yin and Yang and force us out. The Heavenly Tao tree's expression was very serious. There was one thing he didn't tell everyone. Back then, the spiritual realm lost its ability to defend itself because of the Yin-Yang Palace's godly formation. It could only allow the 10 factions to attack and destroy it. However, his words still caused everyone's expression to become serious. At this moment, Zhao Qianjun suddenly thought of something and said, "It's not that there's no way. For example, if we can't win, can we return to the underworld? Yes, we can temporarily hide in the underworld." Jing Wushou, Lin Tianjiao, and the others' eyes lit up. The Heavenly Tao tree shook his head again. The underworld can only accommodate heavenly venerables. If you return, your cultivation will be directly weakened. It's equivalent to your martial path being cut off. Moreover, you don't have the protection of the Heavenly Tao. You only have one chance to enter the heavenly realm. The second time, you'll be attacked by the Heavenly Tao. The higher your cultivation, the stronger the attack. Otherwise, countless people in the heavenly realm would have entered the underworld to escape the pursuit of their enemies. These words made everyone's mood sink. Zhao Qianjuan's expression turned ugly. It seems that I was careless. Escaping into the underworld can only be a last resort. We have to think of a way to neutralize the Wind Cloud Hall's attack. Ow! Since the Wind Cloud Hall is here, they will definitely send a large number of Tao Lords. On our side, we only have 1 Tao Lord and 2 Lord of Heaven. The secret of the Treants can't be exposed. Shang Jing was very vexed. The others were also at their wits' end. Di Fan smiled bitterly. No matter how unwilling I am, we can only ask Yi Fei in this situation. If he can persuade Rizu, we might have a chance to turn the tables. But when Master left, he didn't say where he was going. Where should we go to find him? Yi Xiaochan felt very depressed. However, her words still gave everyone one last ray of hope. If Yi Fei could really unite with Rizu and return in time, then Lin Feng would not have to fear the threat of the Wind and Cloud Hall. Even if the Baiyun god personally came, he could only scram back with his tail between his legs. Thinking of this, Di Fan suddenly gritted his teeth and said, "Yi Fei didn't go to China this time. He's in Qingzhou. As long as we work hard, we should be able to find him." The Tree of Heaven nodded and said, "Although I can't pinpoint the exact location of the Spirit Lord, I can roughly sense the Spirit Lord's location through the restriction formation with the little princess. The Spirit Lord should be in the northernmost part of the green region. As long as someone can rush there at full speed, they should be able to inform the Spirit Lord in time. However, the time limit is only 1 month. After a month, this grotto heaven might be completely refined by the yin-yang divine formation. Now the question is, who is going to inform the Spirit Lord? I'll go. I can find Yi Fei. I'm also the fastest here. Lu Qing stood up and said. She was the Lord of Heaven and possessed the 7th grade Thunder bloodline. She was born with the advantage of speed. Then we'll cover your escape, Zhao Qianjun said proudly. Holding the demonic sword, he walked out of the grotto heaven. Di Fan, Fu Renjia, Peng Bei, and Jiang Zhen went out with him. Meng Shi and the Lord of Heaven also went out. Their main task was to block the Lord of Heaven and the Tao Lord. The Sky River royal family and the Green Cloud Pavilion moved quickly. Just as Zhao Qianjun and the others rushed out to cover Lu Qing's escape, a large group of corpse soldiers and the people of the Green Cloud Pavilion had already started to attack the Lin Peak. Originally, there were many large arrays set up by the Array faction on the Lin Peak. However, these large arrays were shattered under the attack of thousands of celestial masters and sovereigns. The Sky River Tao Lord and Old Man Green Cloud ordered coldly. Young Master Yang Ming has given the order. Except for Yi Fei, kill everyone else. Kill them all. Kill your way into the grotto heaven. Kill, kill, kill. Countless corpses and martial artists started to charge at the Lin Peak for the first time. They were also prepared to charge into the grotto heaven at all costs. Zhao Qianjun took a deep breath. The demonic sword in his hand suddenly enlarged, forming a demonic sword mountain that slashed forward. Fu Renji's dragon eyes shone coldly. With a shake of his body, he transformed into a huge demonic dragon. He raised his head and roared. With a swipe of his dragon claws, he killed a corpse soldier on the spot. Di Fan, Peng Bei, and Jiang Zhen all attacked. Finally, even Yi Shaochan attacked. The Sky River Tao Lord's eyelids twitched wildly. Who are these people? How can a Lin Peak hide so many geniuses with special bloodlines? They're just a bunch of remnants of the Heavenly Palace of Despair. If they meet me, they'll die all the same. Yang Ming came from afar with a gust of wind. He stared coldly at Lu Qing. I know you. You're the woman by Yi Fei's side. As long as I catch you, I don't have to worry about Yi Fei not appearing. Who will help me catch her? I'm willing to go. Old Man Qing Yun roused his spirits and suddenly rushed towards Lu Qing. Behind Lu Qing, a huge flying serpent rushed out. At the same time, it split into 2 flying serpents and fought with Old Man Qing Yun again. The Sky River Tao Lord was overjoyed when he saw this. Suddenly, his corpse chi exploded, and he also rushed towards Lu Qing. The Lord of Heaven roared and suddenly charged towards the Sky River Tao Lord. At this moment, a trace of the Tao Lord's aura exploded from his body. Sky River Tao Lord, your opponent is me. The Lord of Heaven held a strange weapon that looked like a saber and a sword as he blocked the Sky River Tao Lord. If Yi Fei was here, he would recognize at a glance that the Lord of Heaven was using the weapon of Rizu. Moreover, it was a half-refined weapon of Renzu. Bai Lung and Gao Jun, who were hiding in the crowd, suddenly shouted in shock. The weapon we recognize is Rizu's weapon. Lu Qianzhong was definitely killed by Yi Fei. Our space belts must have been stolen by him too. The furious Bai Lung and Gao Jun immediately unleashed their sovereign cultivation. They couldn't wait to kill the Lord of Heaven and snatch the Renzu's weapon. However, they were only halfway there when a round-faced little fatty appeared in front of them. If you want to pass, you have to pass through me first. Scram! Where did this little fatty come from? Hurry up and die. Gao Jun didn't care about the baby-faced Peng Bei at all. He immediately used his Azure Cloud Palm to kill Peng Bei. However, Gao Jun soon saw in horror that the little fatty had suddenly turned into an enraged ancient ape. The ancient ape's palm was even bigger than his body. With just a slap, Gao Jun was already screaming in pain as he was swatted away like a fly. On the other side, Bai Lung let out a ferocious roar. He was facing Di Fan, and Di Fan's mighty Khanate purple chi happened to be the greatest nemesis of all demons and ghosts. With Di Fan's attacks, Bai Lung couldn't resist at all and was forced to retreat continuously. Chapter 22-28. Yu Mingtian, a fierce battle was raging in the forest. In Xiankong Valley, after a fierce battle of words, Rizu finally chose to compromise. In the end, Rizu's most urgent matter was to get rid of the poison of the void in his body and restore Rinzu's cultivation. Rizu looked coldly at Yifei. You can join the heavenly palace of despair, but you must pass a test. Do you dare? Why wouldn't I dare? However, if I pass the test, does that mean our alliance is a success? Yifei asked coldly. Sure. Rizu extended his hand. Yifei also extended his hand. The two high-fived each other as an oath, reaching a preliminary compromise. Then Rizu extended his hand to Yifei again. Return the gate of immortal essences to me, and I'll take you to a place. Yifei smiled. I won't trouble you, senior brother. Just point out the location of the star map, and I'll take you there. Rizu's eyelids twitched. He resisted the urge to slap Yifei to death. Don't call me that so intimately. The test of the heavenly palace of despair isn't that easy to pass. While you're at it, bring divine ox and the others with you as well. Their ancestors have followed me into battle, and generation after generation has died. I feel bad about it. When he mentioned the vicious beasts in Xiankong Valley, Riza didn't have his usual fierceness. Instead, he revealed a trace of sincerity. It was obvious that the army of vicious beasts in Xiankong Valley were the most loyal subordinates of Rizu. Yifei couldn't help but feel puzzled. Senior brother, since Xiankong Valley is your foundation, why didn't you stay here to recover? Why did you go through so much trouble to hide in the grotto heaven and fake your death? You don't know shit. They're not just my subordinates. They're also my family. When you're in danger, do you think you'll drag your loved ones down with you? Also, who's your elder brother? Don't just randomly address him like that. The lightning ancestor was clearly getting a headache over Yifei's sudden friendliness. In the end, Riza didn't say anything. When Yifei took out the divine spirit gate and adjusted its position, Rizu also called out the divine bull, golden lion, elk, and Xingwan. When Xingwan saw that Yifei was fine, she happily flew over and said, Little brother, I was so worried. I thought you would be beaten to death by Master. How is that possible? I've already told you that Rizu and I are martial brothers. We've been through life and death situations together. Little big sister, don't move first. There's still a bit of poison left on one of your feathers. I'll get Big Black to clean it up for you. Yifei released the dragon turtle. When Xingwan heard that one of her feathers had been tainted by poison, which affected her beauty, she obediently stood still. The dragon turtle was also very respectful. It even politely put up a sign to apologize, indicating that little turtle was coming to clean it up. The dragon turtle opened its black mouth and sucked back the poison on Xingwan's feathers. Without the poison, Xingwan's feathers instantly regained their former luster. Xingwan was overjoyed. The more she looked at Yifei, the more she liked Yifei. She even spread her wings and hugged Yifei for the first time. Rizu's eyelids twitched violently. The divine bull, golden lion, and elk's faces turned ashen. They no longer viewed Yifei as an enemy. Instead, they loathed him. Unfortunately, Riza didn't say anything. They could only watch as Yifei chatted happily with Xingwan. Meanwhile, they were chased into a strange gate by Rizu. Through this gate, the group entered a strange world. This wasn't the divine land, but a celestial plane similar to the imperial sky. However, this celestial plane was extremely dilapidated. Even the sky was tattered, filled with cracks and invisible spatial storms. If one was swept by these storms, even a ruler would be reduced to ashes in an instant. The ground was full of potholes. There were still remnants of various divine abilities. All kinds of shattered divine weapons could be seen everywhere. This is Jadestone, the training ground of the heavenly palace of despair. Unfortunately, with the destruction of the heavenly palace of despair, Jadestone became like this. However, although the heavenly palace was destroyed, its test remains. Many geniuses of the divine land would occasionally take the risk to come here and test their martial arts. Rizu pointed to a dilapidated heavenly palace in the distance. It was like the mouth of a taotai that wanted to devour the celestial plane. Inside there is the test of the heavenly palace of despair. If you pass, this sovereign will cooperate with you. If you can't even pass this test, you have no right to call me senior brother. You have no right to use the name of the heavenly palace of despair to show off outside. At the end of his speech, Rizu deliberately provoked Yi Fei, as if he couldn't wait for him to enter. Yi Fei sneered in his heart. He understood that Rizu had brought him to Jadestone partly to test him, and partly because Rizu had ill intentions. However, the current Lin Feng is at a critical juncture of life and death. Even if I know that it's a dragon's lair or a tiger's den, I still have to go in. Yi Fei's heart flashed with a touch of determination. Then, he strode towards the huge Taoyi's mouth. This calmness and determination moved Rizu. He has a strong will. Unfortunately, he is destined to fail the test of the heavenly palace of despair. Qingwan was puzzled. Master, why can't Yi Fei pass the test? Aren't you fellow disciples? If you harm him, Qingwan will ignore you in the future. Qingwan wanted to remind Yi Fei as he spoke. Rizu's eyelids twitched fiercely. The three divine bulls wished that Yi Fei could roll inside and never come out. Fourth sister used to be so obedient, but she was bewitched by that brat's flowery words. Golden Lion and Elk were both distressed. Divine Bull had a steady temperament. He hesitated and asked, Master, could it be that this person is not your junior brother, but an enemy? Are you trying to use the heavenly palace's test to kill him? How can a puny lord of heaven enter my eyes? This person is neither an enemy nor a friend. He thinks that just because he has the antidote to the poison of the void, he can threaten me and make use of me. He is gravely mistaken. Just wait and see. When he fails to pass the test and is so desperate that he can only ask me for help, at that time, he will naturally obediently hand over the antidote. Rizu had a card up his sleeve. No one knew better than him how difficult the heavenly palace of despair's test was. These words made the three divine bulls very happy. They were all eagerly waiting to see the scene of Yi Fei crying and begging for mercy after failing the test. As long as fourth sister sees that brat's sorry state, she will immediately recognize the hypocrisy of these humans. That old monster Rizu is so generous. He actually brought me directly to the ruins of the heavenly palace of despair. There must be something fishy going on here. I have to be careful. Yi Fei was very cautious as he let Xiao Qiao sense the surroundings. After confirming that there were no other ambushes aside from Rizu and the others, he felt relieved and boldly walked into the Taoyi's mouth. Boom! As soon as he walked in, an incomparably huge pressure crazily squeezed his body. Yi Fei's face suddenly changed. Just this pressure alone was enough to make the body of an ordinary lord of heaven collapse. The danger of the following test could be imagined. Rizu really did not have good intentions. Chapter 22-29. Rizu's calculations boom. Yi Fei was finally forced to use his golden body of laws in the face of the immense spatial pressure within Taoyi's mouth. As for the golden body of laws, it was originally a part of the golden body of despair. It was a very terrifying and invincible mystique. It was said that if one cultivated it to the limit, one could fight against an ancient emperor with just their physical body alone. As Yi Fei activated his golden body, the pressure around him disappeared. Yi Fei successfully passed through the Taoyi's mouth and disappeared. Qingwan flapped her wings excitedly, like a dancing crane. Yi Fei, you can do it. I will always support you. The divine ox and the other two divine beasts had ugly expressions on their faces. They hurriedly looked at Rizu, only to see Rizu's eyelids twitching and his face twitching. Don't worry. Even if that brat cultivates the golden body of despair, he won't be able to pass this test. This test is prepared for Tao Lords. How dare you try to rob me? Even if you don't die, I'll skin you alive. Rizu smiled sinisterly. Of course, he only dared to say the last sentence in his heart. He definitely couldn't say it out loud. At this moment, Yifei did not know that Rizu had made things difficult for him. There was even a needle hidden in that shoe. Walking into this strange Taoye's mouth, there was actually a self-contained space inside, like a huge pocket. The pressure in his pocket was even greater. Strong gales were blowing in all directions. They were not ordinary gales, but spatial gales formed by spatial fragments. At the same time, Yifei saw the corpse of the Lord of Heaven in the midst of the gales. It was lifelike, and it was actually floating around with the gales. He tried to condense a hand of profound qi to grab the Lord of Heaven, but the hand of profound qi actually shattered when it came into contact with his opponent. Boom! The astral winds swirled, and the Lord of Heaven within the astral winds was also torn apart. His body seemed to exist in different dimensions, and when the astral wind stopped, the torn parts merged back together to form a complete corpse. It was Xiao Chao's first time seeing such a strange thing. His little face was pale with fright, and his little hands nervously grabbed the dragon turtle's neck. The dragon turtle almost fainted from the grip. Yifei was also horrified. He analyzed the cause of death of this Lord of Heaven and said, "This Lord of Heaven should have been swept into the astral winds." His body was suddenly blown into a different space, and he died from being torn apart. What's strange is that this person didn't know that he was already dead. When he was swept into the astral winds, he was still maintaining the posture of activating his divine art. In other words, if you want to live, then you can't wait until you're swept into the astral winds. Instead, you have to activate your divine ability before you encounter the astral winds. You can either dodge or disperse the astral winds that blow over. However, this was just an analysis. Yifei still felt that it would be quite troublesome to take action. This was because the astral winds were invisible. He also did not know when the astral winds would suddenly blow towards him. However, very quickly, Yifei pulled himself together and said, although the astral winds are dangerous, to put it bluntly, the astral winds are still made of energy. However, the energy here is not the Xian energy of heaven and earth, but the energy of space. Xiao Chao, can your divine eye of heaven and earth sense the energy of space? Xiao Chao grabbed the dragon turtle's neck and ran out. He looked around curiously. At the same time, a very beautiful butterfly vertical eye appeared between Xiao Chao's eyebrows. He looked forward. In an empty space, Xiao Chao suddenly discovered streaks of colorful energy of space. Xiao Chao immediately nodded happily. He patted his little body and pointed in a direction. Yifei immediately lifted his feet and walked in that direction. Whoosh whoosh. As Yifei walked, the surrounding air was affected. The originally motionless astral winds seemed to have suddenly received a signal to attack. They turned into invisible energy of space and blew towards Yifei. "Yeah!" Xiao Chao anxiously pointed behind him and asked Yifei to quickly retreat. Just as Yifei retreated, two invisible astral winds blew towards Yifei's previous position. They collided with each other and even caused the space to be destroyed. Yifei's forehead was covered in cold sweat. Only now did he understand Rizu's sinister intentions. Rizu wasn't testing him. He was clearly using the Heavenly Palace of Despair's test to trap him to death. If he didn't want to die, he could only ask Rizu for help. At that time, his life and death would be at the mercy of Rizu, not to mention the method to remove the poison of the void. Rizu, this old monster, is indeed shrewd. It's a pity that despite all his calculations, he missed out on Xiao Chao. He also didn't expect Xiao Chao's eye of the heavens and earth to be able to see through the power of space. Yifei's lips curled into a cold smile. Under Xiao Chao's command, his footsteps constantly moved forward and backward. He moved left and right like a small boat in the middle of the waves. It looked extremely dangerous, but every time, he just happened to brush past the astral winds. He continued to move forward like this for an hour. Finally, there were no more astral winds around him. Instead, countless blood-colored figures appeared. Among these figures, Yifei saw Yilong, Yi Qianxiong, Wang Ming, Wang Liang, Bloodsword, Zhao Wuji, and many others that he had killed before. Now, these people were all covered in blood. It was as if they had crawled out of hell and were viciously looking for Yi Fei. Yi Fei's expression changed greatly. He felt that the heavenly palace of despair's test was even more perverse. After going through the formless astral winds, any cultivator would be exhausted. At this time, when they suddenly faced their dead enemies, many of them would be in a state of panic. Within Jadebright, the lightning ancestor's divine sense also revealed a cold smile, as if victory was already in his grasp. He directly sent a voice transmission through the layers of space. Yi Fei, your struggle ends here. Surrender now and beg for mercy. Hand over the antidote to the poison of the void, and I can save you. Scram to the side and cool off. It's just an illusion. The people that I killed were all people who deserved to die. Back then, I killed them once. Now, I can kill them a second time. Yi Fei strode forward and charged towards the group of blood-colored figures. These blood-colored figures roared ferociously. All kinds of blood-colored lights, like chains, instantly smashed Yi Fei away. Xiao Chao hurriedly protected Yi Fei. The deity beating whip and the five-color divine light attacked continuously. However, they were unable to harm these blood-colored figures. Instead, these blood-colored figures were angered by Xiao Chao. They swung their chains and smashed them at Xiao Chao. It's useless. These are not illusions. They are special life forms formed by the power of space, according to your memories. Defeat them, and you'll pass the test. You will even have a chance to comprehend the will of the divine power. Unfortunately, Rizu shook his head and said with certainty, you will never pass the test. This test is prepared for Tao Lords. Every blood-colored figure formed here has the strength of the Lord of Heaven. Do you still think you have a chance of winning? Rizu's words caused Yi Fei's heart to sink. Just as Rizu thought that Yi Fei had finally compromised, Yi Fei suddenly laughed. Rizu, you are indeed very sinister. You want to trap me with the Tao Lord test and then threaten me. Unfortunately, I hate being threatened the most. There are some things that you won't know if you will succeed or fail until you try them. Yi Fei couldn't be bothered to care about others, but Yi Fei didn't believe in such things. At the same time, Rizu's reminder gave Yi Fei an extremely bold and crazy idea. Wiping the blood from the corner of his mouth, Yi Fei suddenly roared and charged towards the blood-colored figures again. Chapter 2230. Mystique intent Rizu panicked when he saw Yi Fei charging recklessly towards the group of bloody figures. After all, the antidote to the poison of the void was still in Yi Fei's hands. If Yi Fei died, where would he go to find the antidote to the poison of the void? Rizu had even decided to abandon his consciousness and rescue Yi Fei from the test space. However, at this moment, Rizu suddenly saw a scene that shocked him to the core. Faced with countless scale of despair that were at the same level as him, Yi Fei actually activated his golden body of laws. As he fought with the bloody figure in close combat, he suddenly hugged the bloody figure. The two of them tumbled in the void, smashing through countless voids. At the same time, the figure of the bloody man actually shrank rapidly when Yi Fei grabbed it. It became blurry, and in the end, it turned into a blood-red energy that frantically surged into Yi Fei's body. Rizu widened his eyes when he saw this scene. Even though he was a Rinzu realm expert, he couldn't figure out how Yi Fei managed to pull this off. However, even though Rizu was stunned, the other bloody figures weren't. More and more bloody figures continued to charge towards Yi Fei. Yi Fei's golden body of laws flickered and countless cracks quickly appeared on it. However, Yi Fei didn't seem to feel anything. After absorbing one bloody figure, he immediately pounced on another. Within the Sky Palace, the undying sword's soul howled madly, as if it had sensed Yi Fei's intentions. The entire sword soul burned like a flame. As the sword soul burned, Yi Fei's entire body seemed to become a part of the undying sword soul. He was filled with endless sword light and suction force. The second bloody man that was caught by Yi Fei quickly turned into flowing light and was completely destroyed by the undying sword soul. This was the special method that Yi Fei could think of. In the end, these bloody people hadn't truly returned from hell. They were special life forms that had been created by the power of space based on Yi Fei's memories. These life forms were similar to the law demonic beasts of Supreme Emperor Heaven. In the Supreme Emperor Sky, the undying sword soul could even refine and absorb a law sky dragon, let alone a despair sky ho that was inferior to a law fey beast. Just like that, under the devouring vortex formed by the invincible sword soul, Yi Fei grabbed one bloody figure after another and absorbed it. During this time, Yi Fei also encountered the most ferocious attacks from the bloody figures. Sabers and swords flashed, punches and kicks were thrown, and even all kinds of martial arts and mystiques were vividly displayed by the examination space. No wonder Rizu said that this trial was prepared for Dao Lords. Without the power of a Dao Lord or someone close to the Dao Lord level, very few people would even be able to make it past the first two trials, to say nothing of defeating these blood men. However, since I've come this far, I will not allow myself to be disappointed. Yi Fei's gaze became increasingly determined. His golden avatar had already been shattered, and his body had been struck by countless martial arts mystiques. His flesh was lacerated, and he was covered in blood. However, Yi Fei still did not retreat. He was still fighting, and he was still killing. He wasn't just fighting for himself, he was fighting for Lin Feng. When he thought of the situation Lin Feng was in, he thought of the countless people who had high hopes for him. Yi Fei's body suddenly burned with a soaring fighting spirit. That fighting spirit seemed to be slightly different from the fighting spirit he had before. In the past, the battle spirit could only stimulate Yi Fei's fighting spirit and allow Yi Fei to face the battle with even more vigor. However, when the battle spirit was released this time, Yi Fei suddenly felt that there was a mysterious power in his body that gave him the urge to use his mystique. Dong! The bell rang and lightning flashed. Yi Fei instinctively used the divine 5 Thunderbolts bell that he was best at. This was a sovereign realm mystique, and its power was already very weak in the Lord of Heaven realm. However, as Yi Fei's battle spirit radiated from his body, this sovereign realm mystique erupted with power comparable to that of the Lord of Heaven realm. A cloud of blood blossomed in the void. The body of the blood man who had attacked Yi Fei the most ferociously exploded. Then, the exploding blood turned into streams of light that rapidly entered Yi Fei's body. This caused the inexplicable battle spirit within Yi Fei to burn even more fiercely. Outside Xiankong Valley, Lu Qing looked exhausted. Her arms were stained with blood. This was the price she had to pay to escape from Lin Feng. Yang Ming had personally used the yin-yang sky-flipping palm to severely injure Lu Qing. The strong yin-yang qi was constantly destroying the vitality in Lu Qing's body, causing her to look haggard and her breathing to weaken. However, when she thought of the situation at Lin Feng and the consequences of Yi Fei's rash teleportation back to Lin Feng, she gritted her teeth. Ignoring her injuries, Lu Qing gritted her teeth and fought her way out of the Bayou Nation to the periphery of Xiankong Valley. It's already the 20th day of the bloody battle at Lin Feng. I must find Yi Fei within 10 days. Yi Fei, where are you? Lu Qing looked at the empty valley and said in a tired and weak voice. Her voice attracted the attention of her pursuers. A powerful cultivator from the Lord of Heaven of the imperial family of the Heavenly River rushed over with a sinister smile. Little beauty, where are you going? If you continue to run, your divine soul will collapse and you will die. Why don't you accompany me while you still have some life left in you? Maybe I will let you go. The surging corpse, Qi frightened countless birds and beasts. Lu Qing's face turned pale. A dagger slipped out of her blood-stained sleeve. She had made up her mind. If the ghost general caught up with her, she would cut her own throat and die. Bam! Another bloody figure was smashed into pieces by Yi Fei's divine bell, formed by lightning. Then, Yi Fei rushed into the divine bell. Before the other bloody figures could attack him, he quickly refined the spatial energy of this bloody figure. As he refined the spatial energy, Yifei could clearly feel that something strange was happening in his body. The spatial energy absorbed by the undying sword soul did not increase his celestial chi or divine power. Instead, it caused some strange changes to his divine soul. This change is the battle intent. I don't know why, but the power of these bloody figures seems to be able to transform my consciousness. Could it be that this transformation is the divine ability that Riza mentioned? Suddenly, Yifei thought of a crucial point in his heart. In the earth world, there were martial wills. In that case, in the heaven world, it wasn't impossible to have divine ability wills. After that, Yifei thought of the heart sword divine ability that the sword maniac elder had left him. Originally, Yifei didn't understand why the heart sword supernatural power could be used across realms. But now, as he sensed the metamorphosis of his divine soul, Yifei was shocked to discover that perhaps the path of sword maniac elder's heart sword was the path of a supernatural power's will. The old master Jin actually touched the threshold of the divine ability when he wasn't even a martial god. Yifei's heart was in turmoil. Suddenly, he became serious again and recalled the heart sword divine ability that the old master Jin had left him. Yifei had stopped using this divine ability long ago. Chapter 22:31. Lin Feng's crisis. It was also this enlightenment that caused Yi Fei's spirit to suddenly tremble violently at this moment. Above his spirit, a layer of intense, blood-red, fighting spirit burned. This is the will of bloody battle. Fighting bloody battles. Fighting 100 battles without regret. My mystique will is bloody battle. Stop the bleeding with blood. Stop the battle with battle. I want to fight. Boom. An even fiercer battle intent turned into a blood-red light that exploded from Yi Fei's body. This was the will of bloody battle. When they sensed this will, the indifferent expressions of the blood men who were still crazily attacking Yi Fei suddenly turned into fear. They were no longer just attacking Yi Fei. Instead, they were fusing with each other, as if they were going to become some kind of more powerful life form. A thought flashed through Yi Fei's mind. That's right. The trials of the Celestial Palace of Despair are meant for Tao Lords. These celestial puppets of despair will grow stronger as I grow stronger. This time, they will fuse together into an even more powerful Tao Lord. Unfortunately, they won't have the chance. Divine Five Thunders Clock. Boom! Thunder suddenly exploded in the chaotic void. Then, it turned into a terrifying divine thunder clock that fell on the blood-red figures. At the same time, a vast intent was transmitted through the mystique. In an instant, the martial arts and mystiques of the blood-red figures were all shattered. This was the true strength of a mystique. A mystique with intent could not be countered by a mystique without intent, unless the mystique was of a particularly high level that was beyond the control of intent. It was obvious that these scale of despair, formed from the power of space, could not reach such heights. Therefore, under the bombardment of the divine Five Thunders clock, they were all shattered and their lives ended. Their energy turned into divine light and was absorbed by the undying sword soul. As large amounts of spatial power were refined and absorbed, Yi Fei's realm and laws did not increase. However, his will of bloody battle became more condensed and resilient. Boom! Yi Fei opened his eyes and looked at the void. His powerful intent tore through the void at this moment, revealing Rizu's shocked and incredulous consciousness. You actually managed to pass the Daolor trial of the Celestial Palace of Despair? Rizu said with some difficulty. The Divine Bull and the other two beasts widened their eyes in disbelief. Only Qingwan was in high spirits. She spread her wings and danced like a red-crowned crane. The atmosphere was beautiful and joyous. Yi Fei also hurriedly thanked Qingwan. Thank you, Sister Fairy. I was able to pass the test successfully because of you. What he said was also the truth. If it weren't for the Qingwan, he might not even be able to see Rizu's face, let alone enter Tomorrow Jade. Of course not. You my younger brother. As an older sister, I naturally have to take good care of my younger brother. Qingwan looked excited. She was obviously addicted to being an older sister. The more she looked at Yi Fei, the more she liked him. Seeing Yi Fei coax the little girl as soon as he came out, the divine bull and the other two beasts were filled with murderous intent. They were waiting for Rizu to give the order so that they could stomp Yi Fei to death. Yi Fei also cupped his hands towards Rizu. Senior brother? This time, Rizu actually did not deny it. His face turned red, white, black, and green. He could be said to be the king of face changes. In the end, Rizu let out a long sigh and acquiesced to Yi Fei's name. Since you passed the trial of the Celestial Palace of Despair, you'll be a member of the Celestial Palace of Despair from now on. With that, Rizu turned around and was the first to enter the Celestial Gate. Qingwan still wanted to talk to Yi Fei, but how could the Divine Bull and the other two beasts tolerate it? They hurriedly pulled Qingwan and turned to leave. During this time, they deliberately said earnestly, "Fourth sister, you're still young. You mustn't be deceived by others. As the saying goes, you may know a person for a long time without understanding his true nature. The key is that he's ugly." Golden Lion and Elk also had earnest expressions on their faces. Yi Fei's face darkened. However, judging from Rizu's attitude, he realized that the alliance was most likely a success. It was just that Rizu was very prideful. Even if he admitted it in his heart, he would not admit it out loud. So, he simply left on the spot. Looks like I still need to work harder. It would be best if I bow my head to Rizu and give Rizu a way out. That way, Rizu will be easier to talk to. Thinking of this, Yi Fei reluctantly took out the dragon skin battle robe and thunder boots. Without saying a word, he returned to Xiankong Valley and returned them to Rizu with both hands. Rizu's expression was still cold. Is that all? All right, there's also Senior Brother's Crystal Love. Yi Fei had no choice but to return the Crystal Love to Rizu. Rizu took it unceremoniously and said, "What else?" "All right, there's also a Rinzu weapon. Senior Brother asked me to help him repair it. I've already repaired most of it. If Senior Brother doesn't mind, you can come with me to Mount Lin to get it. Of course, if Senior Brother doesn't want to go, I can also send it to you," Yi Fei said carelessly. Rizu glared at him. "What a joke. You have the guts to come to Xiankong Valley. Do you think I'm afraid of your puny Mount Lin? Lead the way." Rinzu's weapon was his livelihood. How could Rizu be willing to lose it? Moreover, Yi Fei had given him enough face. Considering that he still needed Yi Fei to cure the poison of the void, Rizu already had the intention to compromise. At this moment, a huge rock flew over at high speed from afar, and a clear voice could be heard. "Oh no, someone has broken into our Xiankong Valley and is causing trouble again." "What? How dare he cause trouble in Xiankong Valley? This old bull will go and hammer him to death." The Divine Bull was the first to fly into a rage. He planned to kill the intruder. Rizu also waved his hand. The scene of Lu Qing fighting with the vicious beasts in the Xiankong Valley appeared in the void. Not far away, a heavenly corpse ghost general let out a strange laugh as it approached Lu Qing. The vicious beasts around it were all killed by sharp blades made of corpse energy. Lu Qing's pale face suddenly showed a touch of despair. Then, a dagger appeared in her hand. Yi Fei's heart suddenly exploded like a volcano. His heart trembled. Lu Qing is here. Something must have happened to Lin Feng. "Lu Qing, don't do anything stupid." Yi Fei became anxious. However, he was too far away and couldn't rush over in time. Then, he felt a terrifying wave of energy behind him. It actually swept him away from the vicious beasts and appeared in the periphery of Xiankong Valley in an instant. Boom! The terrifying pressure of the human ancestor seemed to cause the heavens and earth to collapse. The heavenly corpse ghost general's ferocious smile froze on his face. Under the pressure of the human ancestor's pressure, his entire body was completely stiff, unable to move. However, Yi Fei didn't want to imprison the ghost general. Seeing what the ghost general did to Lu Qing, Yi Fei only had one thought in his mind, and that was to kill. Bang! A heavy sword whizzed past. The ghost general's stiff smile turned into complete horror. Finally, the horror completely froze on the ghost general's face. Yi Fei. Chapter 22:32. A bolt from the blue countless vicious beasts began to retreat in an orderly manner. Yi Fei immediately grabbed Lu Qing's hand and channeled a vast amount of mystic force into Lu Qing's body. Lu Qing, why are you here? What happened to Lin Feng? Save Xiao Chan. She was captured by Yang Ming of the Yin Yang Palace. Lu Qing grabbed Yi Fei's clothes tightly with an extremely anxious expression. Lu Qing's words were like a bolt from the blue that struck Yi Fei. What? Xiao Chan was captured? And the one who did it was Yang Ming of the Yin Yang Palace? Suddenly, Yi Fei recalled the grudge between him and Yang Ming in the Supreme Emperor Heaven. He suddenly felt very vexed. If he had known that Yang Ming would be so sinister, he would have thought of a way to kill Yang Ming in the Supreme Emperor Heaven. Needless to say, Yang Ming must have come to take revenge on him for the Yin Yang Palace's appearance in the Azure Province. Yang Ming, you can take revenge on me however you want, but you shouldn't take revenge on Lin Feng or my disciple. Lu Qing, don't worry. Lin Feng will be fine. Xiao Chan will be fine too. I'll rush back to Lin Feng now. As he spoke, Yi Fei had already taken out the celestial essence door. In his weakened state, Lu Qing hurriedly stopped Yi Fei and said anxiously, No, you can't go back. Yang Ming brought 10 Dao, lords this time, and even joined forces with the Clear Cloud Pavilion and the imperial family of the Sky River. They even set up the Yin-Yang divine formation and are preparing to refine the entire Grotto Heaven. Boom! Lu Qing's news shocked Yi Fei once again. If the Grotto Heaven was refined, then not everyone in the Grotto Heaven would be doomed. They were the only hope for the Earth realm and the spiritual realm. Many of them were his family, brothers, and elders. Yi Fei couldn't imagine how severe the consequences would be if the Grotto Heaven was refined. However, he couldn't deal with this crisis on his own. Yi Fei hurriedly looked at Rizu and said sincerely, Rizu, please help me resolve Lin Feng's crisis. You can ask for anything. We'll talk about the conditions later. Let's go over and break that bullshit Yin-Yang divine formation first. Rizu's words surprised Yi Fei. He originally thought that Rizu would take this opportunity to threaten him and force him to hand over the antidote to the poison of void. Seemingly sensing Yi Fei's confusion, Rizu said coldly, This time, I didn't act to help you. I just didn't want the people of Yin-Yang Palace to be too arrogant. Yi Fei finally realized that the Heavenly Palace of Despair had been destroyed by the Yin-Yang Palace. How could Rizu allow the Yin-Yang Palace to strut around in Qingzhou? Even without Yi Fei's request, Rizu would still act. Even so, Yi Fei still thanked Rizu sincerely. Thank you, senior brother. I'll remember your kindness today. You don't have to thank me. By helping you, I'm also helping myself. If you really want to thank me, remember to join forces with me to destroy Yin-Yang Palace if you have the ability in the future. Rizu snorted coldly. Yi Fei was stunned. He understood that this was Rizu's condition and agreed without hesitation. All right, if I really have the ability, what's wrong with destroying Yin-Yang Palace? After all, he and Yin-Yang Palace were enemies, not friends. Very good. Then let's hurry back to the Bayou Nation. Open your gate of immortal essences. Rizu took the lead and walked into the gate of immortal essences. Following behind him were the 4 lords of heaven, Divine Ox, Golden Lion, Elk, and Qingwan. Lu Qing's eyes lit up immediately. A strong sense of hope rose in his heart. Yi Fei will definitely be able to protect Lin Feng this time, right? That's right. Even if I have to sacrifice my life, I won't let anything happen to Lin Feng. Your injuries are very serious. Enter my beast mark space to recuperate. Xiao Qiao and the dragon turtle will help you. Yi Fei held Lu Qing's hand tightly to express his determination. Then, he put Lu Qing into the beast mark space and walked into the gate of immortal essences as well. At the same time, the battle at Lin Feng was still ongoing. This was also the most intense battle that had ever erupted in the Bayou Nation. A total of 12 Dao lords were involved in this battle. They were attacking the grotto heaven world that Lin Feng was in. Below Lin Feng, countless martial artists and undead soldiers used their mystiques to attack the grotto heaven's world barrier. Within the grotto heaven, the heavenly Dao tree also sent out all its martial artists to release their dark force to prevent the grotto heaven's world barrier from being breached. However, the attacks of these martial artists were easy to neutralize. The truly terrifying thing was the yin-yang divine formation of the yin-yang palace. This formation could reverse yin and yang and continuously weaken the grotto heaven's world barrier. In the eyes of martial artists, the grotto heaven's world barrier was as thick as a mountain. They might not be able to break it even after attacking for half a year. However, under the yin-yang divine formation's weakening, the grotto heaven's world barrier continued to weaken. During this period, it turned into yin and yang qi and was rapidly consumed. Sky River Dao Lord and Old Man Qingyun were overjoyed. They immediately led their troops to attack the grotto heaven even more fervently. Yang Ming also had a smug smile on his face. In at most 10 days, the grotto heaven's world barrier will be completely refined by the yin-yang divine formation. When that time comes, I'll lead the army and attack this grotto heaven. But young master, it's easy to attack the grotto heaven. What if Yifei escapes in advance? After all, he has the immortal essence gate on him. Some Dao lords expressed their worry. Yang Ming kept sneering as he pointed at Yi Shaochan, who was tied to a stone pillar not far away. I know Yifei. He's not the kind of person who would abandon everything and run away. As long as this female disciple of his is in our hands, he'll show himself sooner or later and let us kill him. What do you mean, young master? Pass down my orders. In 10 days, when we break the grotto heaven's world barrier, I'll personally execute Yi Fei's disciple here. Let's see if he still has the face to run away. Yang Ming's eyes flashed with a vicious glint. If Yi Fei abandoned his disciple and fled, his reputation would be ruined and he would no longer have the right to compete with him. However, if Yi Fei came to rescue Yi Fei, Yang Ming could lead the people of the Yin-Yang Palace and capture Yi Fei in one fell swoop. When they heard Yang Ming's vicious plan, even the Dao lords of the Yin-Yang Palace couldn't help but shudder. However, they carried out Yang Ming's plan to the letter. Soon, the news of the Yin-Yang Palace breaking through Lin Feng and killing Yi Fei's disciple spread throughout the Baiyu Nation and even the entire Qingzhou. It was like a stone that caused 1,000 ripples. Countless forces turned their attention to the Baiyu Nation and Lin Feng. As the son of an elder of the Yin-Yang Palace and a genius of the Divine Prefecture, Yang Ming attracted even more attention. At the same time, a tall execution platform was built outside Lin Feng. Yi Shaochan was tied up and escorted to the execution platform, which instantly attracted the attention of countless people. During this time, Di Fan and the others heard that Yi Shaochan was about to be executed. They rushed out more than once in an attempt to save her. Unfortunately, the difference in strength between the two sides was too great. Di Fan and the others were defeated time and time again. Even if they risked death, they couldn't step onto the execution platform under the watch of the 10 Dao Lords. Chapter 2233. On the execution platform. 10 days was the time it would take for the Yin-Yang Palace to refine the grotto heaven. However, Yang Ming was not in a hurry to refine the Yin-Yang Palace. His main target was not the grotto heaven, but Yi Fei. On the high execution platform, Yi Shaochan's clothes were stained with blood. Her body was bound by the heaviest yin-yang chain. This kind of chain could imprison a person's spiritual soul and dark force. Yi Shaochan's petite body could not even walk steadily while carrying such a heavy chain. However, she did not fall down. Even in the face of death, she forced herself to raise her head and stick out her chest. The dazzling sunlight shone on the girl's delicate body. Yang Ming's gaze froze for a moment. Ever since he caught Yi Shaochan, he had interrogated her in every possible way. However, he could not force her to tell him the whereabouts of Yi Fei. Yang Ming admired, such a strong-willed girl. What a determined girl. It's a waste of your talent to be Yi Fei's disciple. He won't come to save you. However, I'm different. If you betray Yi Fei, I can let you be my concubine and bring you back to the Yin Palace. Your future will be bright. Yang Ming looked at Yi Xiaochan greedily. Yi Xiaochan's expression revealed a tinge of disgust. Then, a bright smile appeared on her face. Master said that a true swordsman should be indomitable and have no regrets. Without Master, I would have died when I was young. Master gave me a second chance at life. I'm willing to fight for him and die for him. Stubborn. It seems like you still hope that Yi Fei will come to save you. Unfortunately, that's impossible. Yi Fei has probably run away. There's only one outcome for those who oppose the Yin Palace, and that's death. Yang Ming stood up from his seat coldly. The sun in the sky became more and more dazzling. Yang Ming's gaze became more and more ferocious. Yi Xiaochan's rejection finally made Yang Ming lose his last bit of patience. No one can reject me, Yang Ming, especially nobody like you. Do you think that I won't dare to touch you just because you rejected me? Yi Xiaochan's face suddenly turned pale. She felt an evil glint in Yang Ming's eyes. Although she was still a girl, Yi Xiaochan knew what that evil gaze meant. She was not afraid, but her gaze became firm and resolute. Yang Ming, if you dare to come near me, Yi Xiaochan, I will kill myself. You, Heavenly Lord, Tian's Lord, Tian's Heavenly Tao, Yi Fei's Tao, is Lord. Sky River Lord appeared behind Yang Ming with a cold expression. At this moment, he proposed an extremely vicious idea. Young Master Yang Ming, in my opinion, killing Yi Fei's disciple isn't enough to force him to show himself. Why don't you allow me to refine this woman into a female corpse on the spot? At that time, let alone seeking death, even if you ask her to strip naked in front of everyone, she will do it without hesitation. The Sky River Great Tao Lord had purposely spoken loudly so that his words could be heard clearly in the cave abode. Di Fan, Zhizhao Qianjun, Fu Renjia, Jiangjun. Everyone was enraged. The grotto heaven opened with a loud bang. The heavily injured Meng Shi and Lord of Heaven dragged their exhausted bodies and rushed out. Unfortunately, they couldn't rush over. Outside the forest peak, Old Man Qing Yun had a sinister smile on his face. He was leading a large group of soldiers and horses to stop them from rushing out of the grotto heaven. Around the execution platform, the various forces from the Baiyan nation shook their heads and sighed. The power of the Yin Palace was enough to crush the entire Qingzhou. Furthermore, the Azure Cloud Pavilion and the imperial family of the Sky River were also in cahoots with the Yin Palace. It seems like Lin Feng is really done for this time. Yi Fei's reputation is ruined. His disciple was killed and humiliated. He was even refined into a corpse soldier in front of everyone. If he doesn't appear, his reputation will be ruined and his life will be in shambles. Appear? There are 12 Tao Lords here, and young Master Yang Ming is presiding over the situation. Yi Fei can't wait to escape. How dare he appear? The martial artists on the execution platform sneered. They didn't think that Yi Fei would appear. However, they didn't notice that at the back of the crowd, a young man in a black purple-gold robe was silently walking over from afar. Behind him was a girl in blood-stained clothes. She looked exhausted, so she could only sit on the back of the dragon turtle. However, even so, her appearance still attracted the attention of many people. There were even people who immediately recognized Lu Qing's identity. I know her. She's Lin Feng, the only Lord of Heaven who managed to escape. She's Lu Qing. What? The Lord of Heaven who escaped actually returned? Then the young man beside her. Countless martial artists were shocked. They looked at Yi Fei in disbelief. On the execution platform, Yang Ming's expression was indifferent. You knew you were going to die, but you still appeared in the end. Yi Fei, you really have guts. It's a pity that you offended someone you can't afford to offend in your lifetime. That person is me, Yang Ming. Yi Fei, you didn't expect this day to come, did you? Bai Lung also appeared on the execution platform. He looked down at Yi Fei and pointed at Yi Xiaochan. After she dies, I will treasure her body well. When she saw Yi Fei, a trace of shame appeared on Yi Xiaochan's face. She looked like a child who had done something wrong. She lowered her head and said pitifully, "Master, Xiaochan has embarrassed you." Yi Fei also looked at Yi Xiaochan with a smile. "No, Xiaochan, who didn't embarrass me. In my heart, you will always be my most outstanding disciple. Now, you just have to answer one question. How do you want them to die?" Whoosh! The dark steel heavy sword appeared in Yi Fei's hand. The tip of the sword was pointed at Bai Lung and Yang Ming. Bai Lung's eyes twitched. He couldn't believe that Yi Fei dared to say such words in front of so many Dao lords. Yang Ming sneered and said disdainfully, "Yi Fei, you really have guts. You're about to die, but you still dare to put on airs in front of me. Who brought this ant here? I don't like it. Let him stand and talk to me." "Haha, that's simple. Cut off his legs and make him kneel to talk to you. Let this little girl see how pathetic her invincible master is." Sky River Dao Lord was the first to make a move. He didn't want to curry favor with Yin Yang Palace. Sky River Dao Lord couldn't wait to kill Yi Fei because of the grudge between Yi Fei and the Sky River royal family. His body left after images as he appeared in front of Yi Fei from the execution platform. His horrifying corpse claws grabbed at Yi Fei's legs. "Master, be careful." At this moment, Yi Xiaochan suddenly became more nervous than ever. Although Yi Xiaochan had always admired Yi Fei's strength, it was still a Dao Lord who was making a move this time. The difference between a Dao Lord and a Heavenly Lord might only be one realm, but for the real deal, even the difference of one mystique was enough to make the opponent lose the ability to resist in an instant, let alone one realm. Chapter 2234. Listening to thunder and silence, my disciple is kind-hearted, and it's not good for her to say such cruel words. Then, as her master, I will say it on her behalf. I want you to die miserably, die in pain, and die in an ugly manner. This is the price you have to pay for humiliating my disciple. Boom! Yi Fei moved. His body was like a heavy sword, and he moved like lightning. Seeing Yi Xiaochan covered in blood and tied up, Yi Fei was really angry. Following his anger, the whistling sword light cut through the sky and tore the earth. Yi Fei's figure instantly rushed from the back of the crowd to the high execution platform. Sky River, Great Dao Lord, who was in charge of capturing Yi Fei, didn't move at all. He was still waving his corpse claws. However, Sky River Great Dao Lord couldn't move anymore because he was dead. A bolt of lightning instantly pierced through his head, crushing his divine soul and Sky Palace. At the same time, a middle-aged man stood beside Sky River Great Dao Lord's corpse. He wore a dragon-skin battle robe and a pair of Thunder War boots. No one knew how he appeared, but when he stood there, everyone felt as if they were hallucinating. Where the middle-aged man stood was the center of the world. The Patriarch is dead. How could the Patriarch be dead? No, this can't be true. The one who was the most terrified was Bai Lung. Sky River Great Dao Lord was the foundation of Sky River Kingdom. As long as he wasn't dead, the Sky River royal family wouldn't perish even if they went against the law. But at the same time, if the foundation of the Sky River royal family died, the Sky River royal family would be in real danger. Who are you? How dare you interfere in the affairs of the Yin Yang Palace? Sky River Great Dao Lord's death instantly angered the 10 Dao Lords of the Yin Yang Palace. They stood up angrily at the same time. 2 of them even joined forces to grab the man in the dragon robe. Unfortunately, they couldn't reach the man at all. Their bodies were stiff, and their divine souls and sky palaces had exploded. Before they died, they heard the faint sound of thunder in their ears. The remaining 7 Dao Lords all had looks of terror on their faces. The leader of the group, an elderly Dao Lord, suddenly thought of something and began to cry out in terror. I know how they died. The Celestial Palace of Despair once had a supreme technique known as the Silent Thunderclap. Who are you in the Heavenly Palace of Despair? The 7 Dao Lords immediately joined forces in fear. They didn't even dare to split their attention to refine the nearing completion of the Yin-Yang God Grotto Heaven formation. All of them burned their essence force, and all sorts of spirit-enhancing weapons appeared in their hands. It was as if this was the only way to make them feel safe. It couldn't be helped. Rizu's attack was simply too terrifying. A single bolt of lightning was enough to annihilate a Tao Lord. This method shocked everyone present. Old man Qing Yun, who was still blocking Di Fan and the others, was scared out of his wits. Old man Qing Yun would never have thought that the mysterious Taoist lord of the Heavenly Palace of Despair would be behind Yi Fei besides the mysterious tribe in the Grotto Heaven. Once upon a time, there was a palace guarding lightning beast in the Heavenly Palace of Despair. He was the palace master's mount since he was young. Unfortunately, he was spoiled and had a timid nature. Therefore, when the Heavenly Palace of Despair was destroyed, he fled in fear, leaving behind all his fellow disciples. He fled all the way until he reached the Green Province. It was then that he realized that the world was so big. If he left the Heavenly Palace, where would he find a place to stay? After hesitating for a long time, the lightning beast decided to return to the Heavenly Palace and fight to the death with his fellow disciples. However, when he returned, the Heavenly Palace of Despair had already been destroyed. All his fellow disciples had died in battle. Even the palace master who raised him had been dismembered. His head was hung at the palace gate, right where the lightning beast used to slack off and sleep. From then on, the lightning beast swore that anyone who met the Yin-Yang Palace, no matter who they were, would die under the Heavenly Palace of Despair's mystique. Boom! Under the noisy execution platform, there was a sudden clap of thunder. This clap of thunder was very sudden. There was no light, no electricity, and no sound. This was what it meant to hear thunder in silence. The Heavenly Palace of Despair was a supreme mystique second only to the golden body of despair. Under this mystique, the 7 Taoist lords of the Yin-Yang Palace didn't even have time to use their mystiques before their heavenly palaces were destroyed and their souls exploded. Only 7 corpses with faces full of fear were left lying around the execution platform. At this moment, Rizu's figure was standing in the middle of the 7 corpses. He looked coldly at Yi Fei. "I've killed those who should be killed. It's up to you now." Bam! Rizu's body suddenly exploded, turning into a stream of light and dissipating. In the end, this was only Rizu's consciousness and not Rizu's actual body. To be able to kill 11 Taoist lords in an instant with just his consciousness alone was already the limit of what Rizu could achieve. At this moment, Yi Fei finally realized how lucky he was to have been able to rob Rizu in Rizu's tomb. If Rizu hadn't been busy possessing Lu Qianzhong back then and exhausted too much of his consciousness, and if he hadn't been restrained by Xiao Qiao and couldn't use the remaining power of his consciousness, Rizu's lightning flash alone would have been enough to kill him. However, it was also because of this that Yi Fei could feel how powerful the Heavenly Palace of Despair was. A layer of purple gold flames suddenly burned on his body as he walked coldly towards Yang Ming. "Didn't you say that I'm a surviving member of the Heavenly Palace of Despair?" "That's right. I'm a surviving member, but I'm the one who killed you." Yang Ming's face was pale. He was so scared that his soul was trembling when he saw 11 Taoist lords being killed in an instant. However, his identity as the son of an elder of the Yin-Yang Palace made it impossible for him to bow down to Yi Fei. Therefore, Yang Ming's tone was still slightly arrogant and unyielding. Do you think you can escape the Yin-Yang Palace's pursuit by relying on that lightning beast? Do you know who defeated that lightning beast? It was a vice palace lord of the Yin-Yang Palace. There are more than a dozen vice palace lords like that in the Yin-Yang Palace. Yi Fei, let me go if you know what's good for you. Otherwise, boom. Yang Ming didn't finish his sentence. A heavy sword light was already slashing towards him with boiling, killing intent and fury. Yang Ming suppressed his fear and roared in resistance. Unfortunately, the heavy sword light was too powerful. It wasn't just the light of a mystique, but also contained Yi Fei's bloody battle intent. In the end, All Yang Ming could see was the sword light piercing through his body, shattering his sky palace and stabbing into his soul. You? Yang Ming's eyes widened in horror. His powerless hand gripped the heavy sword that had pierced his body tightly. Even in death, he couldn't believe that Yi Fei had dared to kill him in front of everyone, ignoring the threat of the Yin Yang Palace. The consequences of this were even more severe than offending Bai Yun, Immortal Lord. Bai Lung was so frightened that his ghost infant body showed signs of collapsing. He roared in fear and disregarded his dignity as a prince of the heavenly river. He jumped off the execution platform and rushed into the distance. Kill! Suddenly, a cold shout came from behind Bai Lung. Yi Fei hadn't forgotten Bai Lung's perverted hobby of collecting corpses. He couldn't tolerate Bai Lung's nonsense about collecting Yi Xiaochang. Chapter 2235. His Arabam. Bai Lung's corpse fell to the ground. With the death of Sky River Lord, the strongest prince of the Sky River royal family had also died. Without the suppression of the Sky River royal family, the entire zombie army was in complete chaos. The zombies roared and fell into a frenzy. With a crazed thirst for blood, they began to attack all the living people around them. Most of these living people were the allied forces of Clear, Cloud Pavilion, and Medicine Manor. They were ordered to attack the mountain and besiege the entire Lin Peak. Di Fan and the others had charged out dozens of times, but each time they had returned in defeat. At this moment, they had a taste of their own medicine. After all, these zombie soldiers were no longer human. They were a group of bloodthirsty monsters. When the shackles that controlled these monsters lost their effect, the berserk monsters became the vengeful ghosts of these martial artists. Screams could be heard everywhere, and martial artists could be seen fleeing in fear. Chaos, complete chaos. Lin Feng, who was thought to be doomed, actually turned defeat into victory. Yin Yang Palace, who was thought to be victorious, was completely annihilated. A total of 10 Dao lords died in battle. Around the execution platform, besides the people of Clear Cloud Pavilion, there were also many other forces watching. At this moment, the leaders of these forces were looking at Yi Fei with respect and fear. It was this young man who had single-handedly turned the situation around. It was this young man who had created a miracle that had never been seen before in the history of Baiyu Nation. He had single-handedly established Lin Feng. He had single-handedly protected Lin Feng. This was a legend, and it was also the reason why countless factions were willing to lower their heads. The leaders of these factions knew very well that no matter what happened to the Baiyu Nation in the future, it was no longer the era of the Medicine Manor or the Clear Cloud Pavilion. It was the era of Lin Feng and Yi Fei. This can't be real. This can't be real. Sky River Lord is dead. All the Dao Lords of Yin Yang Palace are dead. How could you ask Riza to help? Old man Xingyun's face was pale. At first, he didn't know that the person who attacked was Rizu. After all, when old man Xingyun first met Rizu, Rizu was only wearing underwear and socks and had been beaten up by Xiao Chao. However, he was a Dao Lord after all and had an amazing memory. After a brief moment of shock, he still managed to discover Rizu's identity. It was also this identity that filled old man Xingyun with shock and deep fear. This fear even made him not dare to stay where he was. At the same time that the corpse soldiers went berserk, old man Xingyun had already let out a loud cry. He abandoned the chaotic Clear Cloud Pavilion troops below and quickly fled into the distance alone. Where do you think you're going? The roar of the soaring serpent could be heard from afar. Snakes were born to hold grudges. Furthermore, during this period of time, the soaring serpent had been suppressed by old man Xingyun. It had a belly full of resentment. At this moment, the soaring serpent was venting its resentment. It transformed into a giant python and rushed forward. Its huge snake mouth was wide open. It didn't matter if it was a corpse soldier or a martial artist. It would eat it on sight. It was exceptionally valiant. Unfortunately, old man Xingyun had become a Dao Lord earlier than the soaring serpent. Regardless of whether it was his cultivation level or his speed of escape, he was superior to the soaring serpent. After Old Man Qingyun abandoned the crowd and fled, the soaring serpent couldn't even dream of catching up. This angered the soaring serpent greatly. It rushed into the chaotic clear cloud pavilion troops and was about to wreak havoc. Soaring serpent, that's enough. Yi Fei couldn't stand it anymore and shouted. After all, Lin Feng still needed to establish himself in the Baiyu nation in the future. He didn't want to give others the impression that he was a cruel demon. "My lord, please forgive me." This old servant just slipped out of his mouth. The soaring serpent rushed over and explained awkwardly, afraid that it would offend Yi Fei. Yi Fei snorted, "It's fine if you slip out of your mouth, but you can't eat people. You can eat all those corpse soldiers that have gone berserk." Looking at the army of corpse soldiers that numbered in the tens of thousands, the soaring serpent's face turned green. Yi Fei also frowned. With so many corpse soldiers, if they didn't do anything, the entire Lin Feng would become a land of zombies. This was also the reason why he didn't want to pursue Old Man Qingyun. If we don't deal with these corpse soldiers in time, the Baiyu nation might become a nation of zombies in the future. But with Lin Feng's strength, it's not enough to deal with all the corpse soldiers. There were too many corpse soldiers attacking Lin Feng this time. There were close to 10,000 of them. Unfortunately, the battle trance couldn't leave the grotto heaven. In the end, Yi Fei could only look at the leaders of the other forces around the execution platform. He bowed and said, "Leaders, your forces are also in the Baiyu nation. I believe you don't want to see the corpse soldiers wreak havoc and turn the Baiyu nation into a nation of zombies, right? I wonder who is willing to join forces with me to eliminate these corpse soldiers." The Tian Sha Peak is willing. The Broken Saber sect is willing as well. Peak Master Yi has given the order to kill the corpse soldiers. Everyone attack. Before Yi Fei had even finished speaking, the crowd had already responded. The leaders of the various forces were all valiantly striving to be the first, fearing that they would fall behind. Not only did they charge forward, but they also mobilized their own forces. They were constantly mobilizing experts from their respective mountain peaks to encircle and annihilate those frenzied corpse soldiers. In the end, even the people from the Qingyun Pavilion who were abandoned by Old Man Qingyun had no choice but to surrender while fighting bravely against the corpse soldiers around them. Yi Fei was stunned. Since when did I have such strong charisma? Why didn't I know about it? Hearing this, Di Fan, who was walking over, let out a muffled groan. Zhao Qianjun laughed loudly and said, "Junior brother, with just one sentence, you annihilated the Yin-Yang Palace and the imperial family of the Heavenly River. Old Man Qingyun abandoned them and fled. You are now the uncrowned emperor of the Baiyu nation. Who dares to disobey your orders?" When he said this, Zhao Qianjun's face was filled with killing intent. Hearing this, the leaders of the other forces trembled. They could only work harder to help Yi Fei eliminate the corpse soldiers for free. Yi Fei smiled bitterly. However, with so many people helping to clear out the undead soldiers, he was able to keep his hands and feet free. Moreover, with the flying serpent, Guitianjun, and the divine ox guarding this place, Yi Fei did not have to worry about Old Man Qingyun making a comeback. After destroying the Yin-Yang godly formation with Di Fan and Zhao Qianjun, Yi Fei led Yi Xiaochan and Lu Qing back into the grotto heaven. However, the scene inside the heavenly abode gave Yi Fei a fright. Inside, there was a lack of Xianqi. It was a scene of desolation. Many of the originally green forests had withered and turned yellow. The ground was cracked, and cracks appeared in the heavenly abode's void. This is all caused by the Yin-Yang godly formation. The Yin-Yang Palace's Yin-Yang godly formation can reverse the 5 elements of Yin and Yang and steal life. Fortunately, you came back in time. Otherwise, this grotto heaven might not be able to hold on. In the grotto heaven, the only green thing was the tall heavenly tree. It had turned into a divine tree and supported the entire grotto heaven so that it would not collapse under the refinement of the godly formation. However, the heavenly tree had obviously reached its limit at this moment. Yi Fei's expression was solemn. He bowed respectfully to the heavenly tree and said, Senior Heavenly Tree, thank you very much. Without you, this grotto heaven would not exist. No, you are wrong. Without you, we would not have a future. We should be thanking you. It was you who saved us from danger. Well done, Spirit Master. The Heavenly Tree gave a rare compliment. Yifei could not help but blush. Chapter 2236. Seeking Peace Reese's intervention had saved Lin Feng from danger, but the yin-yang divine formation had caused too much damage to the grotto heaven. This made Yifei feel sorry for the Heavenly Tao Tree. After all, the yin-yang palace had attacked Lin Feng because of his personal grudge with Yangming. As if sensing Yifei's self-blame, a tree branch gently caressed Yifei's head. Spirit Master, you don't have to feel guilty. This isn't your fault. Even without the grudge between you and Yangming, the spiritual realm would have fought against the yin-yang palace sooner or later. 5 of the top 10 forces had participated in the destruction of the spiritual realm, and the yin-yang palace was the vanguard. That's true, but I still find it hard to accept that the once verdant grotto heaven has become so dilapidated. Senior Heavenly Tao Tree, can the grotto heaven be restored? Yifei said uncomfortably. The Heavenly Tao Tree hesitated. That's difficult. Although the yin-yang divine formation didn't refine the grotto heaven, it has already disrupted the 5 elements of the grotto heaven. To restore it, we'll have to spend a huge amount of mystic meridians. How much do you need? Yifei asked in a low voice. Xiao Chao also jumped out and nodded vigorously. The Heavenly Tao Tree was even more hesitant. It extended a finger and said, at least 1,000,000 mystic meridians to restore the grotto heaven to its original state. Hiss! Luo Shi and Xia Jun gasped. Yifei and Xiao Chao's faces darkened, and they subconsciously looked at the dragon turtle. The dragon turtle instantly became nervous and quickly tightened the belt around his belly. He was already tearfully prepared to live frugally. At this moment, the Tian Fa Quasi-Emperor suddenly laughed sinisterly. Ha ha, it's just 1,000,000 mystic meridians. What's so difficult about that? Whoever started the trouble should end it. Even if the yin-yang palace's people are all dead, the Green Cloud Pavilion and the Green Cloud Pavilion are still around. It's not impossible for the Green Cloud Pavilion to take out 1,000,000 mystic meridians. But even if we take it out, Clear Cloud Pavilion strength will be greatly damaged. If we push too hard, the old dog will bite even harder. Lin Feng, will also suffer great losses. Zhao Qianjun shook his head. Yifei also agreed with Zhao Qianjun's words. In the end, a starving camel was still bigger than a horse. Lin Feng wasn't confident that he could destroy Clear Cloud Pavilion with just his strength, unless Rizu intervened. Unfortunately, Rizu's divine consciousness had already collapsed after destroying the 10 Dao lords of the Yin-Yang Palace. It would take time for him to form a new divine consciousness. It was also for this reason that Yifei resisted the idea of attacking Clear Cloud Pavilion. The moment Rizu appeared, old man Qing Yun lost all his courage. He doesn't dare to risk his life against us, because if he does, he will lose everything. If he tolerates us for the time being, he still has a chance to make a comeback. If I were him, I would swallow my anger and seek peace at all costs to buy time. Human Emperor, if you don't believe me, you can make a trip to Qingyun City right now. The Tian Fa Quasi-Emperor was very confident and had a sinister smile on his face. Yifei shuddered. Then he had an idea. After all, 1,000,000 mystic veins was too much. He couldn't afford it. At this time, he could only try his luck at Clear Cloud Pavilion. Yifei acted immediately. He hurriedly walked out of the cave. At this moment, Soaring Serpent and the others had also finished cleaning up the corpse soldiers and gathered on the forest peak. Yifei didn't say much. He immediately ordered Soaring Serpent to transform into his true form. He said coldly, "Let's go. We're going to Qingyun City." Boom! Yifei's words shook the hearts of the nearby forces. They were filled with shock. Was the Baiyun nation about to undergo a complete change? If that was the case, where would these forces go from here? In an instant, Countless martial artists on the forest peak were filled with fear. The divine bull and the other 3 divine beasts were in high spirits. They said in unison, "Let's go, let's go. Yes, let's go. I've decided. From now on, I'm going to join Lin Feng." "Me too. I was born to join Lin Feng." "Scram, you shameless thing. How dare you say such things?" "Peak Master, wait for me. I'll be loyal and devoted. I'm willing to risk my life for the Peak Master." Even the divine bull and the other 3 divine beasts hadn't expected that their spur-of-the-moment action would cause such a huge reaction. Everyone had a herd mentality. When they saw so many people clamoring to join Lin Feng, the other forces had to make their stance clear. Yi Fei was also very depressed when he realized that his initial plan of going to Qingyun Pavilion to take advantage of the situation had turned into a mighty army of martial artists. It looked like they were going to attack Qingyun City. This made his heart skip a beat. He even had the intention to attack the city directly. However, Yi Fei shook his head helplessly. Most of the people who had tagged along were making a ruckus, but few were sincere. They were just a bunch of motley crew. Although old man Qingyun had abandoned his army, he had only lost ordinary heavenly venerables and sovereigns. He hadn't captured a single one of the real powerhouses of the Lord of Heaven. In a battle between martial artists, the deciding factor wasn't numbers, but top-notch combat power. Therefore, if he wanted to destroy the Clear Cloud Pavilion, he had to have a sufficient number of heavenly monarchs under his command. The people behind him were, at best, just there to keep up appearances. But even so, when they heard that Yi Fei had brought an army of tens of thousands of martial artists to attack Qingyun City, the entire Qingyun City was in a state of panic. Every house closed their doors. Inside Qingyun Pavilion, the Gao family disciples were in a mess. Some were cursing, some were afraid, but most of them were angry. "Old ancestor, Qingyun Pavilion is the true uncrowned king of the Baiyun nation. Who does Yi Fei think he is? How dare he provoke the tiger's whiskers? Let's just gather our troops and fight him." A belligerent Gao family elder roared angrily. What answered him was old man Qingyun's stern gaze. "Fight? What are we going to fight with? That kid has Riza behind him. If we really fight, Qingyun Pavilion will be destroyed. The only thing we can do now is to stall for time and wait for the Baiyun Divine Lord or the experts of the Yin Yang Palace to arrive. Pass down my orders. The entire army is not to engage in battle. Gao Jun, leave the city immediately and pay a visit to Yi Fei. Ask him for peace. No matter what his conditions are, as long as he is willing to withdraw his troops, you can agree to them." With a swoosh, Gao Jun's face turned deathly pale. Then, his expression became incomparably complicated. Previously, Yi Fei didn't even have the qualifications to speak to him. But now, he had to humiliate himself and run over to Yi Fei to beg for peace. Gao Jun felt extremely uncomfortable in his heart. However, he didn't dare disobey old man Qingyun's orders. Gao Jun could only swallow his grievances and force himself to walk out of Qingyun City. Then he shouted, "Brother Yi, don't be in a hurry to attack the city. We will ask for peace. The old ancestor said that as long as you withdraw your troops, we will not invade each other. We will agree to any conditions. Then I want 1,000,000 mystic veins and the Qingyun treasure mirror. Will you agree to that?" Yi Fei asked coldly. Gao Jun's vision turned black, and he almost fainted. 1,000,000 mystic veins? And the old ancestor's Qingyun treasure mirror? If not for the fact that he couldn't afford to offend Yi Fei, Gao Jun would have pointed at Yi Fei's nose and scolded him. When old man Qingyun heard Yi Fei's conditions, he gnashed his teeth and said, "All right, we can give you 1,000,000 mystic veins and the Qingyun treasure mirror. But you have to promise that you will not attack Qingyun City within 3 months. Chapter 2237. Clear Sky Treasure Mirror 3 months was old man Qingyun's limit. Before the Yin Yang Palace arrived, the Clear Sky Pavilion had received reliable news that the Baiyun Divine Lord would be returning to the Baiyun Nation with the Storm Hall. Just as the Sky Fa Quasi-Emperor had predicted, old man Qingyun decisively chose to retreat before the Baiyun God Lord arrived. He would endure and give up as much as he could. In order to beg Yi Fei to retreat, old man Qin Yun even gave up the green cloud treasure mirror, which was the most important thing to him. Yi Fei was filled with regret. If he had known that old man Qin Yun would agree so readily, he would have extorted more. He didn't need to be courteous to his enemies. It was a pity that under the watchful eyes of the crowd, Yi Fei couldn't open his mouth to continue extorting the other party. Furthermore, the people behind him were just a motley crew, a typical example of putting on a strong front but weak inside. If he were to force the clear cloud pavilion into a corner, it would only result in the opposite effect. Retreat 25 kilometers. Yi Fei waved his hand and ordered the marshalists behind him to retreat. Gao Jun heaved a sigh of relief. He stared at Yi Fei with a complicated expression before hurrying back to Clear Sky City. At the same time, a feral flew out of the city. This was the Clear Sky treasure mirror. Back then, old man Qin Yun had relied on this treasure to break through to become a Dao Lord and attack the Baiyu nation. Holding the feral, Yi Fei could clearly sense that it was extraordinary. Its surface was actually covered with dense divine inscriptions. 1/3 of the inscriptions had already been deciphered, but the remaining 2/3 were still flickering with divine inscriptions and were in a sealed state. Could it be that old man Qin Yun didn't have the ability to completely refine this treasure after obtaining it? If so, then this treasure's value is extremely high. Yi Fei's interest grew as he held the Clear Sky treasure mirror. Clear Sky Pavilion. I'll give you 3 days to prepare 1,000,000 mystic meridians. Otherwise, bear the consequences. With that, Yi Fei turned and left. He couldn't wait to decipher the secret of the Clear Sky treasure mirror. In Qingyun City, the elders of the Gao clan all had faces full of anger. Gao Jun was even more incomparably sullen as he said, "Ancestor, that's 1,000,000 profound veins. Are you sure you want to give it to him? If you give it to me, my Clear Cloud Pavilion will still have a chance to rise again. If you don't, my Clear Cloud Pavilion will truly be finished." Old man Qin Yun sighed, but his eyes flashed with wisdom. As long as he can survive these 3 months, let alone 1,000,000 profound veins, this old man will give it to him, even if it's more. As the saying goes, the romantic turns. 3 months will come to my house. Don't look at how arrogant that Yi Fei is now. Once the people from the Wind and Cloud Palace arrive, I guarantee that I'll make him spit it out with interest. Gao Jun was still unwilling to give up. He said sullenly, "But old ancestor, Rizu is standing behind Yi Fei. Baiyin God Lord doesn't seem to be able to hold him back." Idiot. Even if God Lord Baiyun can't hold on, does that mean that Stormwind Palace doesn't have any Rinzu? What's more, Rizu killed so many Dao Lords of Yinyang Palace. Why didn't Rinzu react at all? One has to look at the long term. This is even more so when it comes to power. Old man Qin Yun said with certainty. His calmness influenced the elders of the Gao family. They all quieted down. However, when they thought about the 1,000,000 profound veins that they were about to hand over, many of them felt their hearts bleed. That amount of profound veins was enough for Qingyun Pavilion to sell everything they had. However, for the sake of the old ancestors' great cause and the rise of Qingyun Pavilion, the elders of the Gao family gathered 1,000,000 profound veins in Qingyun City at the fastest speed possible. Once again, they ordered Gao Jun to deliver them to Lin Feng and formally apologize to him. When the news spread, it shocked the entire Baiyu nation. Everyone could clearly feel that the current situation in Baiyu Nation had really changed. Some of the powers had already started to place their bets and publicly pledge their allegiance to Lin Feng. Of course, Yi Fei couldn't be bothered to deal with these matters personally. He was only in charge of fighting. As for how to develop his power, that was the responsibility of the Grand Supreme Dean, the Sky Wrath Boundary Emperor, and elders like Shangjing. The first thing Yi Fei did when he returned to the Grotto Heaven was to carefully study the Qingyun treasure mirror. At the same time, he and Xiao Chao worked together to decipher the divine inscriptions on the mirror. Finally, after 10 days, Xiao Chao successfully deciphered all the divine inscriptions on the Qingyun treasure mirror and restored the mirror's true appearance. As Yifei expected, this mirror did indeed hide a great secret. Inside, it was a Lord God-level speed divine ability. This divine ability was called the Wings of the Azure Dragon. Unfortunately, Old Man Qingyun's attainment in divine inscriptions and comprehension were very average. Therefore, he couldn't completely decipher the Qingyun treasure mirror and obtain the complete wings of the Azure Dragon. Hence, Old Man Qingyun could only settle for the next best thing. Based on 1/3 of the Azure Dragon's wings, he created the wings of the Azure Dragon and the palm of the Azure Dragon. Upon realizing this, Yifei's spirit was instantly lifted. The current him, with his physical defense and divine power, was basically undefeatable against an ordinary Lord of Heaven. However, this world would never lack geniuses who could fight above their level. Yifei had the confidence to defeat an ordinary Lord of Heaven, but he didn't have the confidence to defeat those geniuses of the divine prefecture on the Earth Carnage roll. My greatest shortcoming is that I don't have a suitable divine ability that can allow me to continue cultivating. This Wings of the Azure Dragon can make up for my lack of divine abilities. I just don't know if this Wings of the Azure Dragon is difficult to cultivate. Yifei slowly closed his eyes and awakened the undying Sword Soul at the same time. He began to make use of the Sword Soul's limitless comprehension ability to increase and immerse himself in comprehending the wings of the Azure Dragon. During this period of time, the paradise that was almost destroyed also regained its vitality under the nourishment of the millions of profound veins sent by the clear cloud pavilion. The ground started to turn green, and the withered plants started to show signs of life again. The one who changed the most was actually Linfeng. This mountain peak had experienced numerous battles, and the original medicine hall on it had long turned into ruins. However, the nearby forces that had submitted to them worked together and built an even more magnificent main hall on the original medicine hall's location. However, many people had a dispute over the name of the main hall. Some suggested to call it Linfeng, some suggested to call it Human Sovereign Hall, and some sorcerers like Gongzhu wanted to call it Sorcerer's Sovereign Hall. A group of trants also joined in the fun and suggested in a simple and honest manner. According to the rules of our spiritual realm, the Spirit Lord's Palace is usually called Spiritual Palace. If you guys don't say anything, it means that you agree. Seeing that no one objected, the hundreds of trants withdrew their clenched fists in satisfaction. This also made Yifei, who had walked out, extremely depressed. Spiritual Palace. This name is too ostentatious. Let's keep a low profile. Let's just call it Sky Martial Palace. After all, Yifei was from the Sky Martial continent. Even though he had come to the heavenly realm, he still had deep feelings for the Sky Martial continent. His suggestion resonated with Di Fan, Zhao Qianjun, Yi Shaochan, and the others. After all, many of them had come from the Sky Martial continent and had fought bloody battles step by step to reach where they were today. Sky Martial Palace. What a good name. The Grand Supreme Dean exclaimed. However, the Tian Fa Quasi-Emperor's heart skipped a beat. Yifei, although Sky Martial Palace is good, I think that it would be more cordial if we called it Sky Martial Kingdom. Boom. The Tian Fa Quasi-Emperor's words made many people's hearts tremble. Yifei also sighed incomparably. The Tian Fa Quasi-Emperor was indeed an old schemer who was on par with the mortal god and the sky god. While others were still immersed in establishing a foothold in the Baiyun nation, the Tian Fa Quasi-Emperor was already considering establishing a nation of his own. Yifei couldn't help but look at the Tian Fa Quasi-Emperor. Are you saying that we should overthrow the Baiyun nation now? Establish the Sky Martial Kingdom? Chapter 2238. The Battle of Annihilation. The four nations of Qingzhou all had Dao Lords. Only the Tian nation had lost its foundation after the death of the Sky River Dao Lord. It was the best target to conquer. Evidently, the Tian Fa Quasi-Emperor had already made the Tianhe nation the best base to establish the Tianwu nation. However, Yifei did not object to this suggestion. The Lin Peak was too small to accommodate too many people from the Earth domain. If they wanted to establish a foothold in the Heaven domain, they would have to leave the Lin Peak and obtain a wider world. At the same time, Yifei had too many grievances with the Tianhe royal family. The destruction of the Divine Star Academy, the self-destruction of Ren Tianxing, the pursuit, and the death of the Lin brothers. Thinking of all these, Yifei could not help but feel a tinge of sadness. In the past, he did not have the strength to take revenge on the Tianhe royal family. However, now that the Sky River Dao Lord was dead and the Tianhe royal family was in decline, this was the best opportunity for revenge. Yifei immediately looked at Jiang Zhen. Jiang Zhen's eyes were filled with anticipation and excitement. Yifei made up his mind. All right, we will follow Senior Tian Fa's suggestion. We will overthrow the Tianhe nation and establish the Tianwu nation. At the same time, we will avenge the Divine Star Academy, Senior Ren Tianxing, Lin Shun, and Lin Gui. Since the human emperor is willing, I will go and select the troops now. I guarantee that I will provide the human emperor with an army within 10 days. The Tian Fa quasi-emperor said confidently. Lin Feng was now like the sun in the sky in the Baiyan nation. The battle on the execution platform had made Yifei famous. Many forces in the Baiyan nation had left the Qingyun pavilion and joined Lin Feng. Although these forces did not have a single expert from the Lord of Heaven, they had many rulers. It would not be difficult to assemble an army of rulers. The difficult part was how to make these rulers work for Lin Feng willingly. Of course, Yifei was too lazy to worry about these things. After all, he was only in charge of fighting in Lin Feng. The rest was left to the two old foxes, the Tian Fa quasi-emperor and the Supreme Dean. Therefore, Yifei returned to the Grotto Heaven and continued to cultivate the azure dragon wings. The more he cultivated, the more he discovered the wonders of this sacred art. This divine ability doesn't seem to be as simple as a divine Lord divine ability. It seems to have a follow-up. It's just that the owner of the Azure Sky Treasure Mirror didn't complete the creation of this divine ability. 3 days later, Yifei was shocked to discover that this mystique was only half finished. If it was fully developed, it might very well be a Renzu mystique. Perhaps this was also the reason why the owner of the Green Cloud Treasure Mirror left behind this divine ability. Perhaps his original intention was to have a descendant who could create a complete set of the Azure Dragon's wings to make up for his regrets. It's just a pity that old man Xingyun isn't the kind of person who can create a divine ability. The Green Cloud Treasure Mirror is like a pearl covered in dust in his hands. Yifei secretly shook his head. Then, he continued to immerse himself in the cultivation of the Azure Dragon's wings. In the next few days, many tree people in the Grotto Heaven discovered that there was often a figure that looked like a dragon, but wasn't a dragon in the void of the Grotto Heaven. This figure stepped on a strange green cloud and flew around in the sky. Behind this figure was the dragon turtle, who had a bitter look on his face, and the excited Xiao Qiao. This was because Yifei discovered that not only could humans cultivate the Azure Dragon wings, but even ferocious beasts seemed to be able to cultivate it. Thus, from then on, the dragon turtle began to suffer. Not only did it have to cultivate every day, but it also had to run around with Yifei. After 3 days, the dragon turtle clearly felt that he had lost a lot of weight due to hunger. Fortunately, these days didn't last long. 10 days later, the Tian Fa quasi-emperor officially entered the Grotto Heaven and informed Yifei that the task of gathering an army had been completed. This time, the Tian Fa quasi-emperor was very generous. He recruited an army of 10,000 martial artists in one go. Among them, there were more than 1,000 rulers. Looking at the neat troops standing under the forest peak, Yifei's forehead was covered in cold sweat. The dragon turtle looked at his thin belly with an ashen expression. Heavens, there are so many people. How many mystic meridians do we need to pay for the military expenses? Jiang Zhen was also shocked by this number. The Tian Fa quasi-emperor laughed sinisterly. This is a battle of annihilation. Even if we don't fork out a single mystic stone, there will be plenty of people who will fight to follow us. Jiang Jun was stunned when he heard this. Yi Fei suddenly understood and said in a low voice, "The so-called Battle of Annihilation is a reshuffling of the forces of the Heavenly River Kingdom. It is also the best opportunity to make a fortune. It seems that they're all planning to go to the Heavenly River Kingdom. To make a fortune? No, it's not as simple as making a fortune. These people will all stay in the Heavenly River Kingdom and replace the local forces of the Heavenly River Kingdom. They will establish new clans and forces, a force that is fully loyal to the Heavenly Martial Kingdom and the Human Emperor," the Tian Fa Quasi-Emperor said with a smile. Hearing this, Yi Fei was even more surprised. However, he didn't say much. He was good at fighting, but he wasn't good at governing. He might as well leave it to the Tian Fa Quasi-Emperor to deal with. After all, Yi Fei's heart was still on the martial path. Even if he attacked the Heavenly River Kingdom, other than revenge, he only wanted to fight for a place for the people of the Earth Domain to live. Pass down the order. The army is to set off. Finally, Yi Fei stood on the peak of the forest peak and gave his order. Hearing this, the 10,000 martial artists cheered excitedly. There was no need for encouragement or reward. Just hearing that they could annihilate the Heavenly River Kingdom and that they would be the master was enough to make more than 70% of the forces of the Bayou Nation red with excitement. They brought their own rations and joined Yi Fei's army. When the news reached the Qingyun Pavilion, old man Qingyun instantly felt as if he had aged a few hundred years. The younger generation will surpass us in time. The younger generation will surpass us in time. Elder, should we inform the Heavenly River Kingdom to prepare? Gao Jun refused to give up. He wanted to find an opportunity to embarrass Yi Fei. Old man Qingyun's expression was gloomy and cold. In the end, he shook his head dejectedly. No, Demon Lord Yi is in the limelight now. He also has Rizu's support. We must continue to endure. Bear this in mind. In 3 months, we will come and see him again. Since the old ancestor had spoken, Gao Jun could only hold back his anger and continue to endure. Just as Gao Jun was enduring, a voice suddenly rang out. Lin Feng's army was like a whirlwind. They charged from the Bayou Nation to the border of the Heavenly River Kingdom. This was also the first time the Bayou Nation had sent troops to attack another nation in Qingzhou. When the news spread, the entire Qingzhou was shocked. In particular, the deaths of the Heavenly River Lord and Prince Bai Lung shocked the entire Heavenly River Kingdom. In the throne room, the old emperor fainted on the spot. After all, the Heavenly River Lord was his ancestor and Bai Lung was his favorite son. Now that the elder ancestor and his son had died together, even the old emperor, who had a strong will and forbearance, could not bear such a blow. However, although the Heavenly River Kingdom was shocked, they did not panic. This showed the strong control the Heavenly River royal family had over the Heavenly River Kingdom. Chapter 2239. Corpse City in the Tianhe Kingdom. The emperor trusted the dead the most, not the living. This was because the Tianhe royal family believed that the dead were the most loyal. Therefore, after enduring for 100 years and finally refining a Tao corpse and destroying the 2 biggest threats of the Divine Star Academy and the Imperial City's Lin family, the Imperial family of the Sky River Kingdom did something big. That was, all the city lords of the Sky River Kingdom must have a sovereign corpse general. This way, as long as the corpse general didn't die, the Tianhe Kingdom would never fall into chaos. At this time, these corpse generals led the martialists in the city and engaged in bloody battles with Lin Feng's army. However, this wasn't what Yi Fei cared about. He didn't care how Lin Feng destroyed the corpse generals in the various cities. In Yi Fei's heart, there was only one goal: the Tianhe royal city and the Tianhe royal family. Only by destroying the Tianhe royal family can the Tianhe Kingdom be considered truly destroyed. Only then can the Divine Star Academy, Senior Ren, Lin Chun, and Lin Gui be avenged. Gong Zhu, Luo Shi, Xia Jun, I will leave 500 sovereigns with you. Flatten the cities occupied by the corpse generals and the family clans that refuse to submit. The rest of the sovereigns will follow me to the imperial city. It was time to settle the blood debt of the Divine Star Academy with the Tianhe royal family. Tianhe Royal City. In the face of this great army, besides commanding the corps generals to defend the city to the death, another major event also occurred in Heavenly River Imperial City. That was, the emperor personally issued an order for all the family clans and martial artists above the Empyrean level to gather together, forming a situation where the entire city was filled with soldiers. Among them, He Wushuang was the vanguard in carrying out this order. After all, the grudge between her and Yi Fei was too deep. It was so deep that she didn't dare think of surrendering. All she could do was frantically contact all the martialists in the city. Then, she would organize these martialists into an army to deal with Yi Fei's attack. The Sky River Emperor also gave a rare show of support to He Wushuang's actions. It wasn't just the Sky River Imperial City, but all martial artists above the Empyrean level in the cities near the Imperial City were captured and locked up in military camps. But what was strange was that these captured martialists seemed to change into a different person after they entered. They became taciturn and began to put on their armor to defend the royal city and the Tianhe royal family. Over time, He Wushuang also developed certain suspicions. Today was the day she was escorting the last batch of Empyrean realm martial artists into the Imperial City. Due to the Sky River Imperial family's arrest, the entire Sky River Imperial City virtually became an empty city. The warriors who could be captured were all captured and forced to join the army. The low-level warriors who could not fight were also forced to stay in the city. They could only close their doors and wait for the outcome of this war. But even so, when He Wushuang entered the Imperial City in the past, she would still feel an intense aura of life. But this time, what she felt was a dense aura of death, as well as a gloomy aura of blood. This caused fear to appear on her exquisite face. Then, a corpse general with a dense, ghostly aura flew in from a distance. He Wushuang, His Majesty has ordered you to quickly go to the military camp for an audience. After saying this, the corpse general led a large group of corpse soldiers and forcefully brought He Wushuang and the last 3,000 people into the military camp. 3 days later, the martial artists that were brought into the military camp all walked out, forming a massive army of tens of thousands. They activated the array formation and climbed up the city walls. 10 days later, Yi Fei led 500 rulers, as well as Lin Feng's strongest combat strength, Soaring Snake and the Lord of Heaven. They fought their way into the royal city of Tianhe. But at this time, the royal city was no longer the same as it was when he first arrived. He still remembered the first time he came to the royal city of Tianhe. It was bustling with people and martial artists everywhere. There were also many shops on the roadside. There was also the Rare Treasure Pavilion, the Spirit Augmentation Guild, and martial artists from various sects and families. But now, the royal city of Tianhe had become a dead city without any vitality. No, strictly speaking, it should be called a corpse city, only to see that the imperial city was densely packed with corpse soldiers. Just by using his divine sense to sweep over it, Yi Fei's face was filled with shock. Zhao Qianjun, the evil demon sword king, was also incomparably shocked. The royal family of Tianhe is considered extreme among the evil demons. They actually turned the entire royal city of Tianhe into a corpse city. This is true cruelty and cruelty. Even the heavens will not tolerate it. Humph, if I were ruthless enough, I wouldn't have let you remnants of the Divine Star Academy go. You lowly commoners were raised to such an extent that you turned against me. Demon Yi, if you retreat now, the royal family of Tianhe can still resolve your grievances with you. Otherwise, this corpse city of mine will be your burial ground. On the city wall, an old man with a towering corpse aura appeared. This old man was the old emperor of the Tianhe kingdom. However, there was no longer any vitality in his body. He had also refined himself into a heavenly corpse. Yi Fei couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. I've killed countless enemies along the way. The royal family of Tianhe may not be the strongest, but you're the craziest and most perverted I've ever seen. If you don't die, I'll be the human emperor in vain. Today, the royal family of Tianhe must be destroyed. Only then can I account for the innocent people who died in this city. Sensing Yi Fei's anger, Mengshi suddenly rose into the air and boldly charged toward the royal city. Don't worry, my lord. I'll go and take the emperor's head. On the city wall, the old emperor sneered, raising a corpse for 100 years, only to use it today. Yi Fei, do you really think the royal family of Tianhe is that easy to destroy? Where is the Taoist lord? Boom! A huge blood coffin rose from the palace, followed by a blood-stained Tao corpse. It roared and charged at Teng Shi, beating Teng Shi until he cried out in pain. Teng Shi had suffered at the hands of Tao corpses before, so he was soon at a disadvantage against Tao corpses again. A smug and sinister smile appeared on the old emperor's face. Demon Yi, you didn't expect this, did you? The royal family of Tianhe has a fourth Tao corpse. It's not too late for you to retreat and get out of Tianhe Kingdom. In the end, Yi Fei had Rizu's support. Even if the old emperor hated him to the core, he couldn't go too far. He'd done all this to force Yi Fei to retreat. But after seeing the corpse city and the cruelty of the royal family of Tianhe, as the human emperor, how could Yi Fei retreat? If I retreat, Tianhe Kingdom might really become a nation of corpses. Therefore, the royal family of Tianhe must die. Yi Fei didn't retreat. Even in the face of the Tao corpse, he still advanced. As Yi Fei moved, the army behind him also advanced and approached the imperial city. The old emperor's expression changed, his smug expression turning savage. Foolish and boorish. Since you don't know what's good for you, I'll have you die here today. He Wushuang, don't you want to take revenge on Yi Fei? I'll give you the chance. A cold and gloomy figure suddenly walked out from behind the old emperor. It was a heavenly corpse ghost general and an exquisite female corpse. This female corpse was Yi Wushuang. Yi Fei jumped in fright, then sighed. Yi Wushuang, you've done everything you can to help the evildoer. This is your fate. Chapter 2240. A bloody battle. When the old emperor said this, he was filled with fanaticism. In the Milky Way kingdom, the greatest glory wasn't being promoted, but being granted death and refined into a corpse. From this, it could be seen just how twisted the hearts of the Milky Way imperial family were. Hearing this, He Wushuang's body trembled. She finally raised her head. Her originally delicate face was covered with livor mortis spots, making her look sinister and terrifying. Only her eyes flickered with an intense light of hatred. Yi Fei, if it weren't for you, would I, He Wushuang, have fallen to such a state? I am the pearl of Li City, and my future should be limitless. But you destroyed my family, and you also destroyed me. I will kill you, and I will let you know the consequences of rejecting me. He Wushuang let out a sharp cry. After becoming a sky corpse ghost general, her memories seemed to have become somewhat chaotic. This feeling was as if Yi Fei had abandoned her, causing her to fall step by step into her current state. Lu Qing looked at Yi Fei with an extremely strange gaze. Yi Fei almost vomited blood. He frankly said, "It's not what you think." Lu Qing's expression became increasingly strange, but he didn't ask any more questions. Instead, he suddenly stepped forward and said, "This is a battle between women. It's not suitable for you to fight. I will fight in your place." As he spoke, Lu Qing charged at He Wushuang. When He Wushuang saw Lu Qing's extraordinarily beautiful appearance and compared it to her current ugly face covered with livor mortis spots, her eyes instantly filled with a shocking anger. "I hate your face. I will tear it apart." Whoa. In the end, what came out of He Wushuang's mouth was no longer a human's voice, but a ghostly shriek. Her speed suddenly became extremely fast, like a gust of cold wind from hell. Her long nails carried dense corpse poison as she viciously clawed at Lu Qing's face. The originally quiet girl suddenly turned into an enraged mother of lightning. Lu Qing let out a roar, and his fists were like thunder as he used the 5 Thunder God clock. The God clock was huge and heavy, and it was like a mountain of thunder. It violently smashed He Wu Shuang from the sky to the ground. On the ground, Lu Qing directly summoned the heavenly tribulation lightning. Rolling lightning suddenly fell from the sky like a waterfall. The momentum and the scene made Yi Fei and the others feel a chill run down their spines. Di Fan and Zhao Qianjun even said to each other, "In the future, no matter who you mess with, you can't mess with Lu Qing. He's too violent." I think that female corpse will be blasted to death from head to toe like this. When he saw that Lu Qing had suppressed He Wu Shuang so easily, the old emperor's eyebrows twitched. Then, he let out an even sharper shriek. All the corpse soldiers in the imperial city suddenly went berserk. Boom! The huge city gates opened with a bang. Endless corpse soldiers rushed towards Yi Fei and the others like a tide. The two corpse generals in the lead had similar faces. They were clearly father and son. They stared at Yi Fei with bloodshot eyes and let out tragic screams. Yi Fei's heart trembled slightly. It's Liu Yong and his son from the Wu Ho government. They were also refined into corpse soldiers. Old Emperor, you are indeed ruthless. An even stronger killing intent exploded from Yi Fei. At this moment, Zhao Qianjun walked to the front and said in a deep voice, "Junior brother, these are your old friends. It's not good for you to attack. Let me do it. Senior brother Zhao, please give them a quick death." Yi Fei nodded and didn't look at Liu Yong and his son anymore. He only took heavy steps and continued to walk towards the imperial city. The old emperor's face instantly darkened. He suddenly clapped his hands and said, "Go! Kill him!" Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Rows of sovereign realm corpse generals swarmed out of the city. These corpse generals were incomplete, and some of them were pieced together. When Jiang Zhen saw these corpse generals, he exploded. "Senior brother Wang, junior uncle Chu, imperial family of the heavenly river, all of you deserve to die." These corpse generals were actually the sovereign realm experts of the Divine Star Academy who didn't have time to self-destruct. They were either killed or captured. In the end, they were cruelly refined into corpse soldiers. This was the greatest blasphemy to the Divine Star Academy. How could Jiang Zhen not self-destruct? He immediately rushed forward and fought with the corpse soldiers, wanting to free them. Yi Fei was afraid that Jiang Zhen would be hurt, so he quickly nodded to Di Fan. "Di Fan, take some people and protect Senior Jiang. The rest, follow me. Kill." Behind them, the 500 sovereign realm experts roared with killing intent. Seeing the cruel methods of the imperial family of the Sky River, the sovereign realm experts were thoroughly enraged. Yi Fei's heavy sword danced in the air, creating a terrifying hurricane. Wherever the hurricane passed, not a single corpse general could stop him. 100 steps, 10 steps, bang! Yi Fei stepped onto the city wall, withstanding the countless corpse soldiers. He rushed to the top of the city wall and attacked the old emperor. Instead of being shocked, the old emperor rejoiced. A sinister expression appeared on his face. "Yi Fei, there's a path to heaven, but no door to hell. Since you're determined to barge into hell, I'll take your life. Where is the Tao Lord? Help me kill the enemy." Roar. The roar of a corpse general didn't come from the depths of the palace, but from beneath the old emperor's feet. Shockingly, there was a blood coffin beneath his feet. At this moment, the blood coffin opened, and another Tao corpse roared out. "This is my true trump card. Do you know why I turned the entire imperial city into a corpse city? It's because only by sacrificing everyone in the city can these two Tao corpses be formed quickly. Now, you lowly commoners shall tremble before the terror of these Tao corpses." The old emperor's expression was crazed. As he spoke, he personally controlled a Sky Corpse General to attack Yi Fei. In the sky, Meng Shi, who was fighting with the first Tao corpse, was shocked. "My lord, don't come down. Your mission is to stop that Tao corpse. My mission is to kill this perverted old emperor and avenge the Divine Star Academy, Run Tianxing, the Lin family, and the millions of people who died in the imperial city." Yi Fei was thoroughly enraged. He didn't care about the old emperor who was charging at him. His body was already burning with a purple gold light. With the golden body of laws, Yi Fei wasn't afraid, even if it was a Tao corpse. He endured the intense corpse qi and charge of the Tao corpse. Roar! This action obviously angered the Tao corpse. The stiff corpse suddenly emitted a ghostly aura. The Tao corpse turned into a bloody light and suddenly rushed in front of Yi Fei. Its corpse claws grabbed Yi Fei, and it was about to tear him apart. The old emperor was ecstatic. He seized this opportunity. He grabbed the sky corpse general and slashed out a terrifying ghostly light, aiming at Yi Fei's vital points. Yi Fei didn't even look at it. He swung his dark steel, heavy sword backward. The terrifying divine force and the divine runes on the heavy sword made Yi Fei's attack as powerful as the Lord of Heaven's divine ability. Not only did it shatter the old emperor's ghostly light, but it also sent the old emperor flying with his corpse. Roar! Chapter 22:41. The emperor dies above the imperial city. The Tao corpse swung its claws wildly at Yi Fei's golden avatar. The golden avatar shook, and Yi Fei's qi and blood churned. Even so, Yi Fei still retreated. At the same time, a dark golden divine sword appeared in Yi Fei's hand. The invincible sword token suddenly awakened. Sensing the powerful origin energy within the Tao corpse, the invincible sword soul was excited. Boom! Without a sound, Yi Fei turned into an invisible sword vortex. This vortex could devour the sky and sink the earth. No energy could escape the invincible sword soul's absorption and refinement. No matter how strong the Tao corpse was, it wasn't a real Tao lord. It was just a puppet, a tool refined from thousands of innocent lives. As long as it was a tool, it couldn't escape the invincible sword soul's absorption. Crack! Crack! A dazzling sword light tore through the sky and shook the entire imperial city. Within the sword light, Yi Fei swung his divine sword like the only sword god in the world. His sword could cut through heaven and earth and destroy ghosts and gods. There was a loud crack, just as the Tao corpse's claws broke through the golden avatar's defense. Yi Fei also swung his invincible sword soul and pierced the Tao corpse's throat. The blade also shattered the Heavenly Palace Ghost City and severed the Tao corpse's fate wheel bridge. Crack! In the end, all Yi Fei could see was a strange ghost whose body was tattered and seemed to be made up of countless soul fragments. It stood on a high platform with incomparable fear. That high platform was the Tao platform. It was also the dividing line between the Lord of Heaven and the Tao Lord. However, this kind of Tao mountain could not protect the Tao corpse's spirit because the undying sword spirit's attraction was boundless. Under the undying sword spirit's suction, the spirit struggled in fear, but was uncontrollably pulled down from the Tao mountain bit by bit. Crack! This can't be real. This can't be real. The Tao corpse that the imperial family of the Sky River spent hundreds of years refining can't stop him. It can't stop this demon. Kill him. I'll kill him. The old emperor was furious. In order to refine these two Tao corpses, he'd risked universal condemnation and turned the entire imperial city into a corpse city, but it still couldn't stop Yi Fei. The powerful Tao corpse Lord of Heaven's will corpse couldn't stop the dark golden divine sword. Yi Fei, I'll kill you. Yi Fei, I will kill you. Yi Fei, I'll kill you. Yi Fei. Yi Fei, Yi Fei, I'll is. Enraged, the emperor led the heavenly corpse ghost general to attack Yi Fei again. This time, he used his full strength. Even his corpse qi was burning wildly. If it was another Lord of Heaven, he would have avoided the emperor's attack. Unfortunately, the old emperor's opponent was Yi Fei, an invincible heavenly lord with divine power will. Facing the old emperor's desperate attack, Yi Fei only used the War Demon Law and suddenly cast the Five Thunder Divine Clock. This was the strongest sovereign divine ability of the Divine Star Academy. However, with the enhancement of Yi Fei's will of bloody battle, This sovereign divine ability had the potential to resist the Lord of Heaven's divine ability. Before the Emperor could reach him, endless lightning had already turned into a divine clock and suppressed him. Bang! Roar! At the same time, a loud dragon's roar came from the heavens. Yi Fei's second divine ability, the summoning divine dragon, also attacked. This divine dragon seemed to be affected by the will of bloody battle. It actually emitted a boundless battle aura and blasted out two divine abilities at the same time. The divine dragon, which was full of fighting spirit, smashed the heavenly corpse ghost general into powder with a swipe of its dragon claw. Then, the divine Five Thunders clock smashed the Emperor, who was rushing toward it, into the ground from the sky as if it were a rag. Yi Fei! The Emperor roared furiously. He was really too sullen. They were both in the Lord of Heaven realm, but he, a late Lord of Heaven, was actually beaten to a pulp by Yi Fei, an early Lord of Heaven brat. This was definitely the greatest humiliation he had ever suffered since he became the Emperor. It was also this humiliation that made the Emperor roar. He burned all of his origin energy. A spiritual weapon appeared in his hand. On it, 5 divine inscriptions flickered. The old Emperor was actually going to use a divine monarch-level attack to kill Yi Fei. "You're overestimating yourself." Yi Fei sneered. His free left hand suddenly raised the dark steel heavy sword again. The divine inscriptions flickered on it. 4 divine inscriptions had been activated. Boom! The divine monarch-level attack was even faster and fiercer than the Emperor's. It couldn't be helped. The Emperor was using his own origin energy, while Yi Fei was using the Tao Corpse's origin energy. It didn't matter how much he used. Soon, a terrifying heavy sword light appeared between heaven and earth. At the same time that it shattered the old Emperor's blade light, Yi Fei activated the divine inscriptions 3 times in a row and released 3 divine, sovereign-level attacks. He was a typical example of a wealthy man who squandered without restraint. The Emperor was so angry that he coughed up a mouthful of corpse blood. He regretted using the Tao Corpse against Yi Fei and letting Yi Fei take advantage of him. The only thing left for him was to give up the battle and abandon his dignity as the Emperor of the Heavenly River Empire and flee. "Yi Fei, just you wait. I will avenge the destruction of my empire today. One day, I will turn you into a desiccated corpse." As he roared, a jade talisman appeared in the Emperor's hand. This was the Heavenly River Great Tao Lord's treasure, the Corpse Escape Talisman. As long as he activated this talisman, he would be able to escape as fast as he could. This was why the Emperor had dared to threaten Yi Fei. He was confident that he could escape unscathed even if he lost the battle. However, the Emperor had overlooked one point. As fast as he was, Yi Fei would be even faster. This was because before he came to the Heavenly River Empire, Yi Fei had already mastered the mystique in the Azure Sky Treasure Mirror. Yi Fei didn't give the Emperor any chance to escape. He roared as a majestic dark force formed a pair of dazzling azure dragon wings on his back. Bam! The dragon wings on his back flapped as Yi Fei's body transformed into an azure cloud in the sky. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of the Emperor from afar. He snatched the Corpse Escape Talisman that the Emperor was about to activate. "This treasure is not bad. I will take it first." The Emperor's vision blurred as the life-saving treasure fell into Yi Fei's hands. The Emperor was so angry that he jumped up. "Bastard, you've gone too far. Get it back to me." Whoosh! A corpse claw with a sharp edge dug viciously at Yi Fei's body. A dazzling purple-gold light erupted from Yi Fei's body as he blocked the corpse claw. At the same time, the dark iron heavy sword pierced through the Emperor's body with a whistling cold light and a force that could shatter the void. It also pierced his sky palace and smashed his spiritual soul. The old Emperor's eyes widened in shock and bewilderment. He was still waving his corpse claw in the air, but his spirit had completely collapsed at this moment. Chapter 2242. The giant blood coffin the Emperor was dead. The uncontrollable horde of corpses went completely berserk. The corpse generals belonging to the imperial family of the Sky River howled in agony and charged toward Yi Fei desperately. It's him who destroyed the hope of the imperial family of the Sky River. It's him who destroyed our hope of rebuilding the Blood Dynasty. Kill him and eat him. Roar. The horde of corpses roared. More than a dozen imperial family members in royal robes charged toward Yi Fei. However, before they could reach him, Yi Fei's body suddenly emitted a bloody battle intent. This intent was like fire that lit up the sky. It was like a star that illuminated the entire imperial city. Yi Fei charged toward another Dao corpse with a lingering aura of killing the emperor. This Dao corpse used to be an ancestor of the imperial family of the Sky River. Later, it had been refined into a corpse by the Sky River Great Dao Lord and the old emperor. As the human emperor, Yi Fei would not allow such a monster to remain in the world. At this moment, the Dao corpse seemed to have sensed Yi Fei's threat. It decisively stopped fighting with the flying serpent and Yi Fei. Instead, it scanned the people present with a ferocious and hateful gaze. Roar! The Dao corpse roared and suddenly turned into a beam of bloody light that charged toward the imperial palace. This scene was unexpected. Zhao Qianjun, who had just killed Lu Yong and his son, suddenly shouted, "There must be a demon behind this. No matter what, we can't let it enter the imperial palace. Kill." Zhao Qianjun's reminder made Yi Fei burn the refined Dao Lord's origin source without any hesitation. His speed became even more terrifying, and the azure dragon wings on his back turned from an illusory illusion to a real pair of huge dragon wings. Then, Yi Fei flapped his dragon wings and approached the Dao corpse from afar. This caused the Dao corpse's face, which was covered in livor mortis spots, to be filled with intense shock and fear. This is impossible. This Dao corpse actually had a certain level of intelligence. It spoke the human language, but its body erupted with the most terrifying aura of a Dao Lord. It turned its head and turned around. Its ferocious corpse claws were like the sharpest divine weapons. The moment Yi Fei charged over, its 10 fingers were like swords, wildly stabbing at Yi Fei's vital points. Continuous explosions came from Yi Fei's body. The sharp corpse armor couldn't pierce Yi Fei's golden body of laws at all. Instead, a dark gold divine sword that carried Yi Fei's bloody battle intent pierced the void and shattered. At the same time, it also shattered this corpse's heavenly palace fate wheel, Dao platform, and soul. In the end, you're not a true Dao Lord. You're just a shell forged from the blood of all the innocents in the capital. Yi Fei shook his head. His entire body had turned into a vortex of swords. Within this vortex, the undying sword soul was excitedly absorbing and refining the energy of the Dao corpse. In the end, the sword spirit burped to show that it was full. Yi Fei's Dao corpse's Dao Lord origins accumulated in 2 Dao corpses. This kind of power was enough to make an ordinary Lord of Heaven explode. But Yi Fei was different. He cultivated the golden body of despair. His body was extremely strong. Even after refining the Dao corpse's origins, he could still suppress it. Moreover, there were corpses everywhere in the imperial city. There were hundreds of thousands of them, and they were all innocent people. As the human emperor, I can't save them, but I can use the essences of these 2 Dao corpses to free them from their suffering. With the sword in my hand, boom! The sword light was dazzling like a newborn sun, illuminating the sky and the earth. As the sword light passed by, the corpse soldiers fell in droves. On the other side, Lu Qing had finally finished off He Wushuang and joined the battle against the corpse soldiers. Then Jiang Zhen, Zhao Qianjun, Di Fan, Fu Renjie, and the sovereigns who had come with them launched a fierce counterattack. More corpse soldiers fell to the ground. The imperial city became a city of corpses. The ground was stained with blood, and the sky was filled with a thick murderous aura. However, the murderous aura didn't dissipate. Instead, it condensed and flowed toward the imperial palace like layers of murderous wind. Junior brother, there's something strange about the imperial palace. Zhao Qianjun was the first to notice the strangeness of the heavenly river imperial palace. Di Fan's eyelids twitched. My saint's heart is beating wildly. There seems to be something inside that I'm afraid of. One had to know that Di Fan was a natural saint. A saint had no taboos. An aura that could make Di Fan feel taboo was definitely not a good sign. Combined with the murderous aura of the dead corpse soldiers, Yi Fei suddenly realized something. Everyone, stop killing the corpse soldiers immediately. Just surround them. I'll be back soon. Yi Fei didn't have time to say anything. He held the black iron heavy sword and rushed toward the imperial palace. Zhao Qianjun and Di Fan stopped at the same time. They weren't the Lord of Heaven. They couldn't follow him even if they wanted to. Fu Renjia turned into a demonic dragon and surrounded the group of corpses, but he was unable to break free. Only Lu Qing gritted her teeth and quickly followed after Zhao Fu. Why are you following me? There's an unknown danger in the imperial palace. Go back. Yi Fei scolded Lu Qing coldly. He wanted Lu Qing to back off. Lu Qing was stubborn. It's because it's dangerous that I want to follow you. Yi Fei was speechless. If he rejected Lu Qing's good intentions, he would be too unreasonable. He had no choice but to bring Lu Qing into the imperial palace. They followed the aura of the corpse soldiers and quickly rushed to the deepest part of the imperial palace. Then, Yi Fei caught sight of an enormous blood coffin in the middle of the palace. Just the blood coffin itself was enough to fill the entire palace. Yi Fei could vaguely sense a strange spatial fluctuation through the open blood coffin. It's the aura of small world. There seems to be a small world hidden in this blood coffin. Lu Qing widened her eyes in surprise. Squeak, squeak. Xiao Qiao also pulled the dragon turtle's tail and ran out to sea. Lu Qing was so scared that she quickly hugged Xiao Qiao. Xiao Qiao, don't go. Be careful of ghosts. Xiao Qiao was most afraid of ghosts. As soon as he heard that there was a ghost, Xiao Qiao quickly grabbed the dragon turtle by its neck and blocked it in front of him. It was said that turtle shells could ward off evil spirits. The dragon turtle rolled its eyes. It wanted nothing more than to swallow the ghost in the blood coffin. Yi Fei stared curiously at the blood coffin. He found several smaller blood coffins inside it. They seemed to be auxiliary coffins of the huge blood coffin. It was just that these coffins were all empty. However, that didn't stop Yi Fei from making bold guesses. Could it be that the Dao corpses refined by the imperial family of the Sky River were refined from this huge blood coffin? Is this the greatest secret of the Sky River imperial family? Suddenly, Yi Fei thought of something. He took out the corpse escape talisman he'd taken from the old emperor and tried to test the blood coffin. The huge blood coffin suddenly released a thick layer of bloody light. At the same time, a bloody door condensed from blood slowly emerged from the blood coffin. You're tuning into the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.